San Francisco is celebrated for its iconic landmarks, vibrant neighborhoods, and stunning views, offering a dynamic mix of urban energy and scenic splendor. Today on Homeworthy, we're touring 3 gorgeous residences, starting with a bright and airy loft, then moving on to a bold yet playful home, and ending off with an expansive Victorian townhouse. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. To shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy episodes, be sure to check out the product links below for amazing furniture, accessories, and more.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Eric. This is my San Francisco loft apartment. Come on in, I'd love to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
I am Eric Wang. I am now a full-time content creator on Instagram, TikTok, and recently YouTube. But just 6 months ago, I used to be a consultant at Bain & Company, which is a consulting firm in San Francisco. So we are in my San Francisco loft apartment. This is around a 1,400 square foot apartment with very tall windows, which is what attracted to me in the first place. I'd say my home is sort of my comfort area. When I first moved here, I wanted to create a space that made me feel very zen and very cozy and just very relaxed, especially because I used to work in consulting. I was working like 60 hours a week, and so whenever I came home, I always wanted to come home to a space that just made me feel very at peace. So I graduated from UC Berkeley in the May 2022. And so when I was looking for housing, I wasn't really sure what to expect. I actually wasn't even into interior design or like architecture that much before. But surprisingly, I actually found this apartment on Craigslist. And after I remember one day I scheduled like 5 or 6 apartment tours in the city, and I just hit all of them at the same time. And this was actually the last one, and I definitely did not have very high hopes because the landlord who listed it had taken pretty poor photos of the space, and so I had no idea that it had such big windows. I didn't know it got so much natural light. And so I really just stumbled upon it and found it for, I think, a pretty great price, especially for San Francisco. And so, yeah, we signed the lease pretty quickly and decided to move in pretty shortly after. I think with the other apartments that we were touring, there were always like a few things where it's like, oh, I wish it got more natural light, or I wish it was in an area that was like a little quieter or something. But I feel like when we first stepped into this apartment, and like, I guess you'll see it in the tour, but when you first step in, it immediately opens into the big living room and the windows. And so I think just like that first gut reaction of walking into the space and seeing like all the natural light that comes through the really big windows and just how just, I guess, spacious everything felt. I feel like it was like a pretty immediate reaction of like, oh yeah, we want this one. Welcome to my entryway. It's a pretty small entryway because the whole apartment is very open plan and open concept, but I did the most with what I can with a small space. And so right here you have a pretty large window, with some storage here. I have a little disposable camera that I keep for my little weekend adventures, as well as some pictures. And then this bench right here, I usually sit down here to tie my shoes or take my shoes off, which is pretty convenient to have right at the entryway. And then you'll also notice I have a little paper lantern. I have a lot of paper lanterns throughout my entire home because I'm really in love with the whole sort of Japanese design concept. So lots of little lamps like that, as well as this pothos plant to bring a little bit of life to this corner. This is pretty much the only plant that'll survive in low light like this, and so I got one of those also. And then coming over to this corner right here, I've got this locker from Mustard Made. So not a super traditional shoe cabinet, but it works very well to, has sort of like an entryway area. So all the shoes are in here, a lot of storage space. And then I also have some little knickknacks on top. So a cool one I'll point out is this phone cleaner right here. So I am pretty passionate about fitness and going to the gym, but one thing I do at the gym all the time is throw my phone on the floor absolutely everywhere. And so I actually think I got mono from the gym once. And so after that little episode, I decided to buy this phone cleaner, which you put your phone in here and it sort of sucks it in and cleans off the germs with UV rays, which is pretty cool and just gives me a little bit more peace of mind that my phone's not super dirty. And then, yeah, I've got a little cork box here for my keys, and then a little lamp just to light the area a little bit. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the entryway. Let's go over to the living room. All right, so now we are in the living room, which is the main feature of the home. This is where I spend the most time and also probably where I put the most money and energy into decorating. You'll notice in this little corner, I have sort of a cozy little reading nook. I have another paper lamp right here. This is a Akari paper lamp, so I bought this from the Noguchi Museum. That was sort of one of my big first expensive purchases for this home. I've always been in love with those lamps, and so I finally saved up enough money to buy one of those a while ago. You'll also notice, again, a lot of plants, a lot of trees here. So I have a money tree here, which I've grown since it was just about this tall, and so it's definitely come a long way. As well as this shelf right here, I have some more plants, and then this shelf is a pretty recent installation. It's from String Design, and I wasn't really sure what to do with this blank wall for a while. I experimented with a little bit of art, but I feel like this is really great. You can see sort of some of the little objects that I love to feature in my home. So some books that I really like, some more portable lamps, some little Legos up here. I feel like I really loved playing with Legos as a kid, and so it's great that Lego sort of came out with home decor featured, or focused Legos to feature in a home. And then, yeah, a little Monstera pillow here to match the plant theme. And then right here, you might be wondering what this is. This is a piece of cat furniture, and so I do have a cat. And I get a lot of questions about how my cat does not mess up my furniture, and the answer is I buy her her own furniture. And so she spends a lot of time here. She loves scratching it. She loves sitting on top of it. And yeah, I think it also looks pretty great. There's not a lot of aesthetic cat furniture on the internet, but I managed to find this one from a brand called Tuft & Paw. So very happy about this. And then I guess on the topic of cat furniture, I'll also talk about this piece right here. This is a very tall cat tree, which I bought for my cat, and she spends the most time sitting up here, sort of watching over the whole room. This sort of area I wasn't really sure what to do with for a really long time. As you can see, it's sort of the entryway area, or I guess you'd call it maybe like a foyer. But there's a closet behind for clothes and stuff, but there just always felt like this awkward space. And so I decided to fill it with this very tall cat tree sitting on top of this Monstera rug down here, which I also love. And then as you can see here, this is what I love the most about the apartment, which is this very large set of windows right here. I think these windows are around 20 or 16 feet tall, if I remember correctly. And when I first moved in here, it's like the first thing that I noticed immediately right off the bat. It's obviously brings in a lot of amazing natural light, but at the same time, I feel like almost acts as sort of a feature of the home itself. You know, I know a lot of people like to have art in their home. I don't like to feature a ton of art just because I'm pretty, I guess, minimalist or simplistic in that way. But I feel like this, with the backdrop of the brick wall in the background, almost feels like its own little art piece. And so really love that, and it's what drew me to the apartment in the first place. On this side of the wall, you'll notice I have this media stand right here, as well as this Samsung Serif TV. I spent a lot of time looking for a TV that I felt like would match the overall sort of neutral and almost like sculptural aesthetic of my living room. And so I finally found this one over Christmas, and I'm really happy with it. I think it looks more honestly like, again, like a home decor piece or a sculptural piece rather than TV, which is usually just, you know, a boring black box. And then I also have these white speakers on the side of it to sort of tie everything together. Over in this corner, I actually just picked this up this last weekend, so it's still in a pot, which is like a temporary solution. I'm getting an actual planter, don't worry. But this is a black olive tree, or it's also known as a shady lady tree. This was on my bucket list for a really long time, and I haven't found it for almost, I think, a year and a half while I was looking for it, just because they're pretty hard to come by, and the ones on the internet that you can get shipped to your house are very, very expensive. And so I finally found it from someone locally this weekend, but I think this tree you typically only really see in either, I feel like, interior designer homes or like very expensive like celebrity homes. And so I was really, really happy to pick this up, and I think it really adds to the whole sort of Zen Japanese Scandinavian style of the living room really well. And I also love how the light sort of diffuses through it, the small leaves, and kind of leaves nice little shadows on the wall. In this little corner right here is my cat's favorite perching spot. So she'll sit up here and watch the birds sort of fly by on the windows a lot. Obviously it gets a lot of sun as well, so she loves sunbathing here. And then right under that we have her little pedestal, which she climbs onto the cat hammock with. So she also loves spending time on here. And again, you can see it's sort of the whole white and wood aesthetic. So again, super happy to have found cat furniture that fits in really well with the overall aesthetic of my space. Sitting down right here, I have a old vintage lamp from IKEA. I would describe my home furniture choices as sort of a mix between a bunch of different price points and a bunch of different sort of retailers. And so I don't really buy too many things from the same place. I always like to feature a lot of different designs in my home. And so this is one of the earliest things that I picked up actually back in college. And I found this on Facebook Marketplace for I think like $10. And so it's funny that I bought it back then, but it's still being featured in my home now. And then this sofa right here is also a pretty recent acquisition. This is a Togo sofa from Lignée Rosé. And so this is an authentic Togo. It is probably the most pricey thing in my home. I definitely saved up a really long time for this. But yeah, I'm super happy to have it. It's obviously a very iconic design piece, which I'm sure you've seen all over the internet. And it's something that I definitely wanted to pick up for a very long time. And so very happy to have this in my home. And I think it just fits the overall space really well. And then moving on to the main sort of couch right here. This couch is pretty low to the floor, as with all my furniture. So the Togo is pretty low to the floor, this couch is pretty low to the floor. I think even though I do have very tall ceilings and I probably could get away with having higher furniture, I like my space to feel very grounded and sort of very cozy, almost like you're just hanging out on the floor or like on cushions. And so this couch is pretty low to the floor, but it definitely gets the job done and it's very cozy. We watch movies here all the time, and yeah, just a great space to kind of just chill out and relax at the end of the day. In the middle right here, you'll notice I have my coffee table. So this is a Nelson bench. Again, one of my favorite design pieces, and on top of it, I have a few little knickknacks, so like my controllers in this sort of ceramic holder. I have a book about cats because I do love cats and I have a cat. And then I also have a lot of interior or architecture-focused coffee books, like this one called Small Architecture. I have this one, which is about creating new homes from old recycled materials. And so a big fan of just, design and architecture as a whole, so I have a lot of books to reflect that. And then under here, I also have some floor cushions, which I use whenever I have guests over. Obviously, we do have a lot of seating, but in the event that we ever have 8 to 10 people over, it's always very helpful to have extra seating, and so I sort of kind of just toss them on the floor sometimes, and people can sit around the coffee table for playing like board games or something like that. So I have those, and then I also have this little blanket basket, which I just sort of keep extra throw blankets whenever we want to get cozy on the couch. Cool. And then I'll quickly talk about some of these things right here on the side of the couch. I have a lot of sort of little stools or side tables, I guess you could call them. So this one's the cork stool from Vitra. I have these 3 stackable stools from Artec. And so again, a really big fan of sort of those classic design manufacturers and designers. And then, yeah, I really love stackable stools like this because they're so multifunctional. Again, I can use them for obviously like extra seating if I want people over. I put them on the side as sort of like side tables, so I'll put my phone on there, I'll put controllers on there, and then even if you're on the couch and you sort of want to kick your feet up, you can sort of put it there and do that as well. And so yeah, definitely a big fan of these sort of multifunctional pieces of furniture. And then coming around to this corner over here, you'll notice, I mentioned earlier, I don't have a lot of art in my apartment, but the very few pieces of art that I do have are almost exclusively all from my sister. So my sister, I feel like, is really someone who's influenced me a lot in terms of my interest in design as a whole. So She works as a fashion designer in Los Angeles as well as an independent artist. And so this is one of her pieces right here. She makes very sort of eclectic and complicated collage type multimedia paintings. And so this is one of the smaller pieces that I have featured in the living room. And then in this corner, again, I have another sort of like side table, I guess you could say, with some interesting pottery inside, as well as some more books about design. And then on top, I have, just some little vases with a lot of flowers. Again, I love to feature a lot of, even though I don't have like an outdoor area of my home, I try to want to really bring in the outdoors inside of my home. And so a lot of flowers and a lot of plants, like you can see right here, this very large bird of paradise. This is one of the first plants that I bought for the apartment. And I think I got it when it was around like a little bit shorter than me, so maybe like 5.5 feet tall. And I think this largest leaf right here is now probably, I don't know, over 7 or 8 feet tall. And so that's really also grown a lot here. And then right here, I have this, again, vintage IKEA shelf. This is fully modular, and so you'll notice that these panels can all come out, which I think is super helpful. You'll notice that I took off the panels on the side to sort of let the plants grow through it, which I think is very unique. I believe this is a piece from 2013, I think. And again, I found this on Facebook Marketplace, which is where I source a lot of my sort of older pieces that are no longer in production. And again, yeah, just a bunch of little knickknacks and things that sort of bring personality to the space. I have some boxes for storage in the bottom. I have a lot of plants. I have more coffee table books. Again, got a bunch of Legos because I am a really big fan of Legos, and I always want to sort of bring a more playful sort of aspect to my home whenever I can, and so I have those Legos right here. This right here is a very iconic lamp. This is a Louis Poulsen lamp, and so this is the Penthella lamp specifically, and so again, this is what was on my list for a really long time, and I think is sort of started the movement of this whole mushroom-shaped lamps that you see a lot nowadays, and so super happy to have this. And then this standing lamp right here is also from Louis Poulsen, which is, yeah, one of my favorite lighting companies. So I think I first started getting plants in college. And back then I killed a lot of them, I'm not gonna lie. I think I probably experimented with maybe like 5 to 10 plants throughout the few years, and I killed basically all of them. But I realized it was probably because my college dorms had very poor lighting, and so I tried not to take it too much to heart. And so gave it a second shot when I got to this apartment, and luckily, as you can probably see, they've been doing pretty well. I can't take too much credit for it. Obviously, I get a lot of amazing natural light, so that's where I think most of the credit is due. But yeah, I think plants are, especially because they work so well in this space, I think just are a great way to add liveliness to any home, and I think is definitely something that I talk a lot about on my content as well. I would describe my personal interior style as sort of a mix between Japanese and Scandinavian design. I think people use the term like Japandi. So I think because I was talking earlier about how I wanted space to feel very cozy and like very zen, I definitely gravitate towards a very natural both material palette and color palette. And so you'll see a lot of like wood, a lot of like cream and sort of lighter beige tones. But then at the same time, I also wanted to avoid what people call like the sad beige aesthetic. And so avoiding everything having be the exact same tone. And so I also have like little like pops of color throughout with little pieces of decor. You'll also notice I have a lot of plants to bring sort of like life and liveliness to the space. But yeah, overall just kind of adhering to those principles of natural materials and just very neutral colors. I think a really big part of putting your personal stamp on a space is, for me, it was actually like living in the space, right? So when I first moved in here, the apartment looked pretty much like nothing like it looks like right now. And so I think I'd say like a common mistake that I see people making a lot of the time when they're decorating their homes is they'll like move in and then immediately buy like all of their furniture in sets, or like they'll decorate everything very quickly. And so for me, it was really a process of actually spending time in here. And so luckily I did move in June, and I didn't start my job until September. So I had a lot of time to just like sit around and actually like live in the space and see how I feel about it, what I felt like could be changed, and what things I wanted to like improve, or like pieces that I wanted to find. And so I feel like I really put my own personal stamp on it, both with those like little pops of color, or like just like things I use. For example, like I have a cat, and so I have a coffee table book about cats. So just things like little personality flares. And then yeah, I think in addition to that, just like the process of actually living in a space really makes me realize sort of what I wanted with it, and then also let me play with the different styles that I wanted to experiment with. So that's the living room. Now move on to the dining area over here, and you can say hi to my cat right here, or she'll run away. So this obviously is not the biggest dining area in the world, and so you'll notice I've done things to sort of make the most of the space that I can. Obviously this dining table is pretty small. I think it's around 28 inches across, and so we only have 3 chairs here. And so yeah, I think also because this area doesn't get as much natural light as the living room, obviously the living room kind of went with more like white and lighter wood and beige tones. This entire corner I've really made a little bit more darker, and so the rug is darker. You'll notice I have these black leather dining chairs, and the wood palette also is more of a walnut finish as opposed to a lighter like oak finish or like an ash finish. And so yeah, I have this dining table right here, have these little coasters, and this portable lamp right here. And then again, flowers, which I like to change out. These ones are starting to go on their way out, and so we'll probably have to get new flowers pretty soon. You'll notice on the window right here also I have this little bird feeder installed. This is one of my cat's favorite activities. I think because we live in a city, obviously I don't have a yard, and so she doesn't really have a ton of opportunities to go outside and play. But what I do for her is I set up this bird feeder with bird food, and so she sort of just sits here all day and just watches the birds come by, eat the food. And yeah, I think we've honestly single-handedly probably fed an entire colony of birds, because when I first moved in here, there were only a few of them, and now there are a lot of them, and they also got a lot bigger. So I will take some credit there. In this corner here, I have this, again, sort of this console or this stand with, again, some design books, as well as this ponytail palm plant. And this mirror. I think whenever I'm sort of designing a space, I'm always thinking about what the best way is to make it feel bigger, or the best way to make it feel like it's more sort of like light. And so I think mirrors in general are a really great way to bring more natural light to an otherwise pretty dark corner. And so this mirror kind of reflects a lot of the light that comes in from the living room and sort of makes this area feel a little bit more lively and bright than it actually is. And then I have these 3 bar stools right here, which we honestly use probably more than the actual dining table. I feel like I'm a very casual person. I honestly don't really like set up for like a real dinner very frequently. So a lot of the times me and my housemate or my girlfriend would just be hanging out here. We'll be cooking dinner and talking and sort of just sitting on these bar stools while we're doing that. And then the last thing I'll talk about for the dining area is this little coffee setup that I have. I am actually not a very big drinker of coffee, and so when I moved into this apartment, I just invested in like an espresso, and so on mornings that I really wasn't feeling it or I didn't get a great night of sleep, I'll just make a cup of coffee using the Nespresso machine. And then inside of here, this is a cabinet from Castlery, and so I love sort of like the wooden slats to give you a little peek of what's inside, and so this is where I keep sort of like my nicer plates and cups and stuff like that for whenever we have like dinner parties. So yeah, that's pretty much it here. And then again, up here, I have another one of my sister's art pieces. This is a bit of a smaller one, but I think, yeah, the darker sort of hues of this definitely fits the overall theme of the dining area very well. I'm a content creator, so I spend a lot of time on social media. But I think especially in like the last 2 or 3 years, especially when I've sort of started doing home decor or interior focused content, there are like so many amazing other content creators that either do like, for example, like home renovation projects, they do like content focused on furniture or focused on design. And so I say I draw a lot of inspiration from seeing other people's homes on the internet and really kind of curating a bunch of sort of inspirations from that way, and then deciding sort of what are specific pieces or what are specific features of this space that I like a lot that I want to incorporate into my space. And then it's a process of like, you know, playing around with the layout and stuff like that. I'd say I probably change like little things throughout my home, honestly, all the time. And so it never really looks the same for more than a few months. So yeah, immediate answer for what my favorite thing about the home is probably the windows. I think it's the first thing that sort of like strikes you when you walk into the apartment. And I think it plays a really big role in providing a lot of natural light. I think at the same time, it's been a little bit controversial, especially online, because my windows do face a brick wall, and so I don't exactly have a view, which I think is what a lot of people think of when they have windows. But for me, the brick wall actually is, number one, it adds a lot of privacy, but then number two, it sort of acts as its own little accent piece in the apartment. I feel like you don't really see exposed brick in apartments in San Francisco. I feel like it's much more of like an East Coast, like a New York or a Boston thing. And so for me, yeah, I would say it's the combination of both the windows as well as the sort of brick wall that it faces. now we can move into the kitchen. I'll start with the shelf here. The kitchen also, I think, compared to the rest of the apartment, isn't the biggest in the world. And so I put this shelf here actually to sort of divide off that entryway area, which you can kind of see through it. And also just add more storage for things in my kitchen. So you'll notice I have like more plates and stuff. I have this little water carbonator right here, which I don't use too frequently, but if you wanted to make carbonated water, you put water in here and then plug it in, and then it makes carbonated water for you, as well as just a kettle. And then again, I have this Lego piece right here to add a little bit of color and just sort of playfulness to the entire thing. And then yeah, some more plants along the top to bring some greenery. And then this is one of my favorite plants. I actually don't know what this is called exactly, but it sort of looks like a miniature monstera vine plant. And so yeah, I think with these concrete pillars, I wasn't really sure what to do with them for a while, but I think plants are sort of a great way to fill up vertical space, especially vines like this. And so this is Mao, which is actually cat in Chinese. So I'm fully Chinese American, and so I had a little playful name for her. She's great. I think a lot of people question how I sort of have a cat in my home. And again, like I mentioned earlier, I get a lot of cat furniture for her, but she's also just an amazing cat, and she doesn't like bite any of my plants, actually. Not all of these plants are necessarily cat safe, but I guess maybe since I've gotten her for a very young age, we've just never had issues with her playing with the plants. And so she definitely brings a lot of liveliness and character to the home with her presence. The kitchen area isn't, I think, my favorite area of the home, I will say. I spend a lot of time here because I do actually love cooking at home. When I first moved to the city, one of my goals was to only order takeout at maximum twice a week. And so I slip up every once in a while, but for the most part, I try to cook pretty much all of my meals. And so a lot of chopping, a lot of cooking happens on top of this countertop. And then, yeah, we have a pretty basic electric conduction stove over here. Nothing too crazy. And then I also have this this bath towel from Marimekko, which is one of my favorite sort of like textile brands. And then one thing I will show is I love to have a lot of sort of things in your home that you usually wouldn't think twice about, but investing more time and energy into finding really like alternatives that are not just as basic as they seem. So obviously this seems like just a paper towel holder, but the middle actually comes out and you can see there's cleaning solution in here. And so it sort of doubles as a little cleaning solution and then makes the process of cleaning a lot more efficient. So that's something kind of cool that I have. And then I also have this automatic sensor trash can, which I use as well. Again, you can see everything's sort of pretty matchy-matchy. I think there's a few things like my blue air fryer, the blue carbonator that I have, but for the most part, I wanted to keep sort of the palette for the kitchen as well pretty natural and just matching the sort of white beige tones that are already going on. I think the one way in which I did want to make the kitchen a little more interesting was with these pothos vines. I feel like there wasn't a great way for me to add a lot of green or like plants into the kitchen just because it's a pretty dark corner and obviously I can't like put plants next to the area that I'm cooking or they're gonna get like fried in the heat. And so I do have these pothos vines that are hanging down from sort of the cabinets at the top, which admittedly are not the most practical because if you're sitting at the bar seating, sometimes you're gonna be eating food in front of a plant. But I think for the most part, I love the way that they look and just bring a little bit more liveliness to the otherwise relatively boring kitchen, I feel like. My advice for people finding their own personal style and really sticking to it is honestly just, again, to like really live in your space and feel out what you like about it and things you don't like about it, draw inspirations from a lot of different places. And then at the end of the day, you know, if you like something that a lot of other people like that's totally fine. I feel like there's no reason to be unique for the sake of being unique. I think at the end of the day, your space is obviously somewhere that you live, right? It's not where other people live. And so even if it's not something that a lot of people love, I'd say if it makes you happy, then it should be okay. And I think that's definitely a pressure that I've seen through my content creation. I think obviously my space tends to be, I think compared to other homes on the internet that you see that are maybe a little bit more eclectic or a little bit more colorful or have more sort of like pops, it's definitely on the more neutral side. And there are some people that love that, and there are some people who think it's very boring. But I think for me, it's, you know, it ultimately comes down to the fact that I love this space and it's something that I really enjoy. And so, yeah, I'd say don't think about it too much and just kind of anchor on your own feelings. I think what really gives a home soul is the way that you live in it and not necessarily the way that it looks. And I think what I mean by that is, For example, in my content, I show a lot of different videos of like the various ways in which I use my space. And so I think what really brings life to it is like things like my cat here. I have my cat, I have my girlfriend who visits me every weekend, and then obviously I have myself. And so living in this space and sort of interacting with all the various parts of it, and especially I think a really big thing for me has always been this idea of like function over form. Obviously, I try to make my apartment very aesthetic and I try to pay attention to the little details. But at the end of the day, what I think about the most is how I'm actually going to use that space, right? Is it a couch that I'm actually going to use? Is it, I don't know, like a side table that I'm actually going to put things on? And so I think like thinking about the functionality and how you actually interact with the space is really what brings it to life, rather than just buying things for the sake of it looking good or for the sake of it like following a certain trend. All right, so heading up to the second floor, I think it's pretty rare to have stairs in an apartment in San Francisco, and so we were definitely super happy to find a lofted apartment that has a second floor to make it sort of separate the zones. The only thing I really have in this stairwell is this very large piece from my sister, and so you can see maybe a little bit more in detail about sort of the style of her art. She does a mix of sort of multimedia, and then afterwards when she actually prints it on the canvas, she'll actually paint over some things with hand. And so yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite pieces from her, and I think fits this stairwell really, really well. And then heading upstairs, this is my bedroom. So this bedroom is connected to the loft overhead. So you can see it doesn't actually technically have its own window. It sort of shares the really big window with the lofted living room. But yeah, my bedroom I absolutely love. It's where I obviously sleep, and I sleep a lot because I very much value my sleep. The bed right here, this is a Thuma bed, which if you don't know is a joy to put together. It has absolutely 0 screws, and so it's all joined by Japanese joinery. So I absolutely love my bed. I have these linen sheets on top. I'm not a big fan of sort of what you normally see with bed sheets, which is sort of those satin finish shiny sheets. I really love linen sheets because number one, they actually get softer with use over time. And so they weren't the most comfortable when I first got them, but now after using them for a while, they're super, super soft, and they'll only get softer over time. I also love sort of just the earthy and almost like wrinkled look of it. I think some people think it looks a little bit messy. I just think it makes it seem like it has a lot more character and just, I don't know, it just feels a lot more textured. And yeah, also notice I keep the palette for my bedroom relatively neutral as well as with, and then use sort of like the art for little pops of color. And then so yeah, this is another one of my sister's art pieces. Pretty similar to the one that was in the living room downstairs, but I have this one in a white frame instead to sort of match the bedroom a little bit better. Hanging on this sort of wall shelf, and then on either side I have these sconces attached to the wall, which I use for my night lights, and then just a pretty basic nightstand on that side. On the other side over here, I have this componibili storage unit from Cartel. And so this is actually much more functional than it looks. It has a lot of storage inside those 3 things, and I think really makes for a very great bedside table. On this side, I have this sort of bookshelf wall divider situation going on. This space for me was always something I wasn't sure how to work with in my bedroom, because if there wasn't anything here, it felt like there was a little bit too much space where the closet was. And so what I decided to do was basically combine this tall bookshelf vertically and then this room divider from Artec as well. To sort of create this zoned living situation. And so I have my bed on this side of the room divider. And then on the other side of the room divider, I have basically where I change. And so this is my closet space. I have a mirror here to check out my outfit before I head out. And yeah, I think just makes the room feel a little bit more functional, and also in a weird way seems like a little bit bigger than it actually is, even though it is obviously just one bedroom. And then a lot of people, whenever I bring people over for the first time, I always get questions about why there is a chair here, because it seems very random. I found these chairs. These are Herman Miller dining chairs, which obviously are pretty pricey. I found them on a great price for Facebook Marketplace, and so I wanted to find some way to feature it in my home. And so I have one right here actually, just so in the mornings when I'm putting on my socks, I just sit here and put my socks on. It just makes life a little bit more easier, and just, you know, puts to use the dining chair that I already had. And then on on this wall, this actually wasn't here when I moved in. I installed these wooden acoustic slat panels. Again, I think just the wall didn't have a lot going on, and so I didn't know what to do with it and wanted to add a little bit more texture and character. And so I bought these panels, which help a little bit actually with the noise dampening. Since I do content, obviously I have to record my voice a lot, and so this helps a little bit with the noise isolation, and then I think just looks really great as well with the vertical slats running along it. And then I have this TV mounted, which actually swivels out if I ever want to watch TV in bed. So that's very helpful. And then yeah, another one of my sister's art pieces at the bottom here, just to feature her amazing pieces as well. And then one quick thing I didn't talk about, this is another Nelson bench. I absolutely love Nelson benches, so this is the second one that I have here. I sometimes sit here, honestly, it's more just as a decorative piece. I have a plant on top of here, as well as another rice paper lamp right here. And so yeah, I think just another great piece to add sort of texture with the sort of like vertical wooden slats. And then over here is my desk setup. So again, because I do content, I'm a content creator, I spend a lot of time at home at my desk or at my laptop, either editing videos or working with brands over email and things like that. And so desk setup was always very important to me. And so this is actually a sit-stand desk, and so I can raise it up if I want to. I can put it down as well. And so I have this desk here, which I work at a lot. And then a very large monitor. This is a 34-inch ultra-wide monitor, and so it's very nice to multitask and have a lot of space on my desktop to do work. Right here, I have another lighting fixture from Louis Poulsen. So this is a wall lamp. And so you can see this is the primary lamp that I use whenever I'm working at my desk at night. Very helpful, and it's nice that it sort of swivels and also goes lower and higher based on whether I'm working sitting or I'm working standing up. I have another art piece up here. This one's not from my sister. It's probably the only piece of art that I have that's not from her. But I have a few little knickknacks there. And then yeah, I think overall you'll see my desk setup is pretty minimal. I don't like having a lot of clutter on my desk because it makes my mind feel cluttered. And so I like to keep it pretty much entirely blank with just the bare minimum essentials that you really need. And so yeah, that's sort of how I like to work and keep myself productive. And then the chair, I think office chairs are very, very important. This is a desk chair called the Fern from Haworth. This has absolutely saved my lower back. It actually has like lumbar support that's adjustable, and so I have always had lower back issues, probably because I spent too much time hunched over my desk in college, but this is definitely a really big lifesaver and sort of saves my posture a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty much the desk setup. I guess the last thing I'll talk about in the bedroom is actually these plants right here. I think a lot of people like to feature plants in their living rooms, but I also love to have plants in my bedrooms. And I've gotten a few people asking me whether that's technically bad for you, because I know at night plants produce carbon dioxide. I'm like 99% sure that's not an issue. I think you'd have to have pretty much an entire forest in your bedroom in order to have impacts on the actual carbon levels in your apartment. But yeah, I love having these here. Again, they sort of hang from the ceilings and capture the natural light from the loft down below. So yeah, that's another way that I like to add greenery to my bedroom. And then like I mentioned, the living room is right below, and so you can see it's a great view to have to wake up to every morning. I absolutely love waking up here. I've been living here for 2 years, and there isn't a morning when I wake up and sort of open the blinds and look at this view and get tired of it. And so yeah, I am just super, super grateful that this is the view that I wake up to every morning. I think to me, home means somewhere where you truly feel at peace. I think, like a home can look really great, or for example, like I have a lot of comments or people telling me like, oh, your apartment is so clean all the time. Like, it's not like, it feels like very staged or it feels like very fake. But that's like just sort of me. I like to keep my space very clean. That's just how I like to live. And so I think home to me really means being true to yourself and creating a space that you feel completely comfortable in and that you feel is really inviting and somewhere where you want to come back to every day and just relax and unwind and just really not have any other thoughts in your mind.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Alison. Welcome to my home in San Francisco. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Like and subscribe for more.
Hi, I'm Alison Damonte. Welcome to my home in San Francisco. I've lived in this house with my husband and my cat Cricket since 2010. We bought the house and immediately wanted to renovate, but our dreams were bigger than our budget, and so we lived here until about 2017 when the house was actually in a fire, and so we were forced to renovate. And so now we live in a dream house. It has everything we could have ever imagined and more, and it's just a wonderful place to live and a place for me to explore my design ideas. So the fire was really a pivotal moment for us in the renovation process. We had been working with a friend who's an architect for a while to get the plans in place. We'd submitted them to the city, and then unfortunately on Christmas morning at 1 a.m. we woke up to a fire outside the house. And it destroyed my neighbor's house, and it nearly destroyed my house. And so there was not much to salvage in the house. And so we kind of started not from scratch, but it really gave us some new ideas on what the house could be and what it should be. And so I think that, a lot of people say to me, wow, the fire was so terrible. But for us, it was in many ways a silver lining, which is what we call the house. It allowed us to do more and to really understand the joy that we had. And we wanted to bring that joy into the interiors. So after the fire, we had already submitted plans to the city. And so we knew we were going to do a renovation, and the fire just sort of made us do it. We were not sure when we submitted the plans if we could actually afford everything in the house. It's very expensive to build in San Francisco. It's incredibly expensive to live in San Francisco. And so we just, we knew that we had to rebuild because we love the neighborhood. This is our home. And we were very excited about the design that we had come up with. And so there was never any question about whether or not we were going to do it. I think that it just sort of forced our hand a bit, that it made it, absolutely necessary to rebuild. Welcome to my entryway. My entire house inside is only 22 feet wide. And so we really had to make use of the space in the most efficient way we could. So before in the house, we did not have an internal staircase, and now this is a central part of the house, both literally and from a design standpoint. So because there was no internal staircase before, getting a staircase into a house this small is really challenging. So we came up with this curved design. The architect implemented it. And we had to decide how we were going to treat this outside portion of the stair, for protection. And I love disco. I've got a disco ball in the other room, which we'll see soon. But I wanted the experience of walking up this staircase to be like walking through a disco ball. So these are steel slats. They are raw on 3 sides and just painted, and then they're mirror polished on 1 side. I think the effect is really cool. It brings a little bit more light into this space, and it's just a really great element in the house. I decided to paint the inside of my house mostly white, just because I knew that I had so much color in terms of furnishings and artwork that I wanted to keep it, at least the central circulation spaces, white. So we selected a pretty bright white. The flooring is also white terrazzo, so I really went for it. And when it came to the staircase, we were actually considering painting this a bright color, and we decided to keep it white. And it's actually held up really well as a white stair for the several years we've lived here now. And I love it as white. It really allows the piece to be a sculptural element, and there's no color to distract from it. The original house layout, this was a hallway. And so, we did keep some of the original layout the same. As I said, there was not a staircase, but we did have this long hallway. It's a very classic San Francisco Edwardian layout, which the house was Edwardian. It was built in 1908 after the earthquake. This neighborhood was actually pasture land. And so after the earthquake, there was a lot of property up here. And so a lot of people built small homes in this neighborhood. So right off of the main entry space is the ladies' lounge. And when the house was designed in 1908, this was probably a parlor or a living room. So that's what it is today also. one of the things that we did when we renovated was we created this large opening so that this room was sort of an extension of the entryway, since the entryway was so tight. And it really allows, like, if we have a lot of guests, like a little bit more circulation space in the house. But we can also close these pocket doors for like extra guest room. Or if I'm playing the keyboard and I don't want anyone else to hear, I might close the pocket doors. So now the room, like I said, it's called the Ladies Lounge. It's a room that's dedicated to ladies. And it's just kind of a cool spot. I imagine this is like a place where when I have my friends over, we would hang out. I've got my record player, which my husband gave me as a gift, which I absolutely love. I have my white Liberace style keyboard because I don't have enough room for a real piano in here. And one of my favorite elements that always gets turned on when we're in here, especially during cocktail hour, is my black disco ball. So this disco ball was made by Yolanda Yo-Yo Baker, who is the last person in the United States to be hand making disco balls. She made the disco ball at Studio 54, she made Beyonce's disco ball, and she made a disco ball for me. So I love disco, I love mirrors, I love the vibe of having like a party in every room. So this for me is super special. And I absolutely love that I have it and that Yo-Yo made it for me. So this really large painting is by Amy Feldman. And I actually bought this for my old office space. I had a lot of white walls in my office and I thought, I need some artwork here. So I actually walked down the street to a gallery in the Mission in San Francisco and they represented Amy. I wasn't really sure because it's gray, and gray is not one of my favorite colors, but I love the sort of like bulbous, fun, playfulness of Amy's work. And so I bought it for the office. And during the pandemic, I moved offices and this would not fit anymore in my new space. So I didn't know what to do with it. It's a really large painting. And so I thought, well, I'll just bring it to the house. I moved offices about the same time that I moved into the house. And so I was like, we'll just leave it here. We'll figure it out. And it actually is perfect in this room. The room has a lot of vibrant colors in it already. And so the painting actually kind of grounds the space. And it also makes a huge statement as soon as you open the door. So it's one of my favorite pieces. And I'm so glad that I have it here now. It was sort of happenstance, but it was a really fun, unintentional art move. So another favorite piece of artwork I have in the house is this photograph by Alex Soth. I was in Minneapolis visiting a friend, and his mother's a big art collector. And my friend said, we've got to go to this gallery. They've got really cool artwork, and they've got a show by a local photographer that I think you'd like. And we walked in, and typically Alex's work is a little bit more photojournalistic, less sort of bright colors and commercial, but obviously this piece spoke to me. I want what these women are wearing. This was a photograph that Alec was commissioned by Gucci during the pandemic to do an ad campaign. So this is a Gucci ad, but I love that this photograph is sort of a time capsule of the pandemic. The guy with the mask is just so emblematic of what we were all so used to for several years. And I love the quirkiness of the subject matter. Obviously the women are front and center, but the ballerina, the giant pumpkins, it's just, for me, it's the perfect piece in this room. So another piece that I love in this room is the coffee table, which is by Alma Allen. Alma's work typically is done in stone and metal. And we visited his studio in Joshua Tree, and I saw this in the corner of the studio. And he explained to me that this is actually a mold for, he was using this to cast bronze tables. So he was doing like a small edition of bronze tables. I think there are 3. And this was the mold for the base. And I just thought it was really cool. I don't actually love wood that much, and you'll see there's not that much wood in the house, but this to me was super cool. I also love the shape of this with the Amy Feldman painting behind it. I think it's just like a really cool juxtaposition, and like kind of there's a nice conversation happening between the two pieces. So we use it as a coffee table. You can put your feet on it. It's really heavy, but it works in the space because the space is not large, and we were really trying to get like a small conversation area here. So it's It's kind of the perfect object to put a cocktail on. I love sitting in this room on this custom daybed. When we decided that this was going to be the ladies' lounge, we obviously needed a place to really lounge. And so we came up with this shape. It's a shape that happens actually in the house. Often it's a capsule shape. And so this is sort of like a quarter of a capsule. The shape repeats in the stairway, and there are some other outdoor day beds that have the same shape. But we just had to find a way to resolve this in here because we wanted to be able to use that wall for my keyboard. So, we have the rounded corner, and then I covered it in one of my favorite Daydar fabrics of all time. This is Margaritas. There's some of those fabrics that you find and you're like, I don't know where I'm going to use it, but it's perfect. And this just really worked with the color that we selected for the walls in the ladies' lounge, and it also informed the rest of the room. So it's one of my favorites. I have no regrets about this fabric choice, and I wish I could use it everywhere. It's really hard for me to tell you what my design style is. I will tell you that our architect, Kasper Morgulnes, is Norwegian. And so he designed the outside of the house in his style, which is sort of a reduced geometric shape. It's wood on the outside, very simple, just a simple shape. And he designed it because he knew Bruce and I, as clients and also as friends for some time, that we like to collect things. And so he actually calls the house the gallery house, and he designed it in a way where we had sort of open spaces, large walls, surfaces that we could really use to display our collection, which is always evolving over time. And so he kind of created the framework for us. And in terms of how I designed it, I think that I used this house as an opportunity to really explore ideas that maybe my clients weren't excited about, or that were a little bit more daring than most of my clients would go for. And ideas that I'd seen in magazines and through travel. We went to Italy a few years before the renovation and were really, really influenced by mid-century Italian architecture. So our floors are all terrazzo. There's also just, like I said before, a sense of joy in what I do. And I really, really wanted that to come through in the house. And so joy, fearlessness, boldness, these are all emblematic of my style, no matter what the project is. But in my home, it really resonates. And I can't really describe the style. I guess I'm influenced by space and modernity, definitely by color. The idea of exploration is really exciting to me. And so it's kind of a big experiment. Let's head down the hallway to the library. Before we get to the library, I want to show you this really cool bathroom. I like to think that this is a good use of like a really inexpensive material in a really effective way. This tile is very inexpensive. It's from Dow Tile. It's one of my favorites. And what we did was we just grouted it with custom grout that I found on Etsy to match the wall color. And this is actually a shade darker than the color in the ladies' lounge. So we wanted this sort of progression of color throughout the house. But I think this is a really effective use of this tile. I think it's cool. It also shows up in my, my laundry room. So I just wanted to show you this before we get into the library. So now we're in my library, and this is a library, but it's also kind of a multi-purpose room for us. Before, when we lived in the house before the renovation, this was our living room here. This was also the dining room, and this was the kitchen. So there was a lot of stuff happening in this room. And now it's really this amazing space that we can use to read. I've got all my magazines, all of our design books, as well as watch TV. So one of the things that we wanted to do in the house is we didn't want to have a TV visible. And so we actually recessed the projector and the screen up in the ceiling, and you can watch TV. It's great for watching movies because it's a big screen, and it's really fun to have friends here. So one of the things, because I didn't want to have a TV visible in the room, it also meant I didn't want to design a room around a TV, which is, so often what clients want. And so we have this great modular sofa. This is the Camaleonda from B&B Italia. You've seen it everywhere now at this point. I bought it before it was everywhere. This is vintage. It came out of an inn in San Francisco. It was in brown velour. I don't really want to know what happened on the brown velour, so I reupholstered it in this great saffron velvet. And the great thing about this sofa is it's modular. So when we bought it, we had intended to set this room up as a big U shape facing the screen. And I was like, that's just not me. I don't want to have, this whole room be about like looking in one direction. I want to have a conversation. I want to be able to my husband and I can have our own sofas when we're reading. So it's great. But if we do want to have a bunch of friends over and watch a basketball game or a movie, it's super easy to move around and we can reconfigure the space. It's a little tight, but it works. This piece of artwork is actually a photograph, which is sort of mind-blowing. The artist's name is Daisuke Yokota, and his process, I'm going to probably get this wrong, but basically it's a negative that he has manipulated the actual chemicals on a photo negative, and then he's taken a photo of it and blown it up. So you get these really amazing sort of psychedelic gestures and colors, and if you get up really, really close to it, you can see it's a photograph, but it's so wild. And it really, we bought this after the room was designed. We had another piece of artwork we intended to put here, and it was just a little small and it wasn't working. And as soon as we saw this, we're like, that's it. And this piece really activates the room and it works with the rest of the decor in such a beautiful way. So you'll notice that in all of my rooms, the ceiling is actually painted the same color as the walls. And that was a really intentional design decision that I made. The ceiling is like a fifth wall. And so often clients or whoever, they treat it like it's just supposed to be white. And there's no reason for that. I think some people think it's scary to paint it dark, but like I said before, gray is not my favorite color, but I do love the mood that happens in this room at night. This is a room that we use throughout the day, but really gets used a lot at night. And I think if we had a white ceiling, it would just kill the vibe in here. So I really do shop everywhere. I'm always looking for amazing objects. And one of my most recent finds is this stunning rainbow blanket that I got in Nova Scotia. It is woven with basically scraps of yarn. I think there are 38 different colors of yarn, but each square is different. I just think this is amazing, and it's like my personality in a blanket. So I love it. I saw it in the shop window. The shop owner was closing. She's like, well, I'm not going to be open for another 4 days, so you have to decide now. So I just jumped and did it. So in addition to this amazing sofa by Mario Bellini, which this was designed, I believe, in 1973, we have this amazing coffee table by Gianfranco Frattini. And I like to think these were designed in the same year. The seat height is similar to the coffee table height, so it works really well. I mean, I love a big coffee table, so, it allows me to display more objects, right? A lot of people think it's a coffee table like this might be too big for this room, but what else are we going to do in here? So, sometimes there's a big flower arrangement. I made this for you, Homeworthy. It's a little exotic, but we always have piles of books on this coffee table. We eat dinner on the coffee table sometimes and watch TV. We actually got this coffee table on eBay. And it was not expensive. It got shipped here, and one woman delivered it, and the top weighs about 200 pounds. So that was an interesting delivery. But, I think it works perfectly with the sofas, and it's a great surface. It's not precious. Nothing in my house is precious. And it's just the perfect fit in here. I love that it's glass too, because it kind of creates some lightness. Otherwise it might be a little bit heavy to have a solid coffee table in here. The only problem is we have had a friend trip over it once. I'm not exactly sure how he tripped over it and how it didn't break, but it didn't. So it really proves that well-designed objects can last forever. So the outside of the house is black, and that was a choice I made before the fire. It's been a controversial choice, I will say that. The house has been published, and it's always the thing that people don't like. Some people, I now know, don't like a black house, and that's okay. I always wanted a black house. I love how foliage plays against black. And part of the exterior of the house that was very important to me was the landscape design. So I really wanted this dark exterior to show off plants. I had this idea of the house having these garden levels or garden spaces on every single level. And so for me, the black was really important. As I mentioned, our architect is Norwegian, and in Norway, there is a heritage of having black houses. And so in some ways, it talks a little bit to his heritage, but it was a decision that I made. And, you know, now it's a little trendy, but I still love it. I'm going to stand behind my decision. That's what design's about, standing behind your decisions. So I love it, and it's not for everyone, and that's okay. The idea of the house from the outside is sort of anonymous, and that was also really intentional. I really sort of didn't want to reveal what was inside. I wanted some privacy in my life. And so the outside of the house is rather anonymous. The inside of the house is a big party. So I like to think of the house as like the perfect party house. We don't have that many parties. We're still getting just out of COVID. I guess it's been a few years, but San Francisco's been a little bit more conservative. And, I just want this place to be a place that people come in and they really let their imagination fly. It's part of my job is getting clients to trust their own imagination. And I want the house that I live in to also challenge my own imagination and how I could live. So let's go and check out my bar. So the kitchen is upstairs in the house, which we still haven't gotten up there. And we wanted to have a little space that, like, if we had takeout or if we wanted to make a drink, we didn't have to go upstairs. Plus, a wet bar is just really fun and great for a party house. So this bar has a really beautiful piece of onyx on top. I got this from a local stone source, and it was a remnant. It was like the last piece they had, and it fit perfectly here. So we really love that. We've got some sipping alcohols here that are good just over a rock. So also in this room is this lightbox photograph. This is a Julia Schulman project down in LA. Julia Schulman is a very important architectural photographer, and my husband's an architectural photographer. So this is really meaningful to him. And we're actually right next to his office, so it's perfect placement for it. So I have a lot of glassware in the house, and this is just a small selection of it, but these are some of my favorites. I've had these forever. I think they came from eBay. I don't have all of them anymore because we've broken a few, but they're just really cool, super elegant. This is the perfect glass for a last word. It's a really elegant coupe. It's fun. It's weighty. I just really love it. And then these glasses actually are super cool. Love them. Little dots to match my light here. And I got these at Anthropology. So, it just goes to show that you don't need to get everything super high end. You can mix high and low, and these are some of my favorite glasses. So one of the ideas in our house was that we really wanted to hide away some of the more functional spaces. And so in this room, we wanted to have a bathroom, and so we got one. And this is always a really fun moment when guests come over, when they open this, to see their reaction. So I hope you like it as much as I do. Welcome to the Tiger bathroom. I found this wallpaper when I was in New York City. I went to a basement bar in Chinatown, and they had this wallpaper, and I couldn't get it out of my head. And I went home to the hotel and was Googling for 3 hours Tiger wallpaper until I figured out what this was. This is actually Gucci, limited edition, and you can still get it in white. The pink is sold out. That's what I've heard. But I just love it in here. It's one of the first things I bought for the house before I even started any of the design work, but I knew I had to have it. I'm so glad I have it. I'm so glad it's in this room and that I can share it with you. I've added my own touch to the house probably mostly through color, which is something that oftentimes my work is identified by. People associate my work with using a lot of color. And I'm really interested in color combinations. I'm interested in how light plays with different colors in different spaces. I just love color. I have since I was a little kid. So it's just part of me. It just comes out of me naturally. I think that the other thing that's become really, really important for me in terms of how I decorate the home is making sure that everything in the home has a story. And so I can really point to almost anything and tell you where I bought it, who made it, what I was doing that day when I bought it, if I was on vacation, who was with me. And it's just really important for me to have that history with the objects that I live with. So, there's a lot of artwork in the house. It's sometimes moving around a bit, but we've met many of the artists and they've actually been to the house. So that's a really, really important part of my design process, is having things in the house that have meaning. And knowing the people who have made the things in the house is incredibly important to me. Welcome to my bedroom. This is one of my favorite rooms in the house because it's quiet, it's cold, it's dark, and it's a little reprieve from the world outside. I intentionally designed this room to have a little less color than the other rooms in the house, but I love color so much. So there is some in this room, but I would say it's a more subtle use of color. I have so many favorite things in this room. I'm not really sure where to start, but let's start with the wall of tile. So my friend Tina Fry is an amazing resin artist, and she made this tile in the same profile as some of the walls upstairs in our house. So these are hand cast resin tiles. They're handmade, so they're not rectilinear, and I think the installation was really difficult, but I absolutely love the effect that they have in this room, and I just think that they're beautiful, and they conceal an amazing shoe closet on the other side. So it's kind of that concept, wherever you see this triangular profile on the walls, we're concealing something behind it. This is a really small room, and we wanted to make it feel more expansive, and the idea of like closing the closet off and having it just be sort of a boring closet wasn't good for me. I wanted the room to feel as big as possible, and so the closet becomes really an extension of my bedroom. So if you come back here, I'll at least show you the shoes. They're hidden behind this amazing tile wall. When we designed the house, I thought I would never fill this shoe closet up, and I think it took me about 2 months. So right now, I don't know. I keep buying heels, but I'm not sure why. I'm really into like a super dressy sandal, and these from Jill Sander are like spaceman vibes that really sing to me. So these are my favorites: comfortable, chic, and super cool. Let's go check out my bathroom. So this is my bathroom, and again, it's an extension of my bedroom. So I wanted it to have the same serene feeling as the bedroom. And I wanted to be able to put everything away and not see any clutter in here. And one other thing that I wanted to do was not have tile. It's a small room, and I thought tile was going to make it cluttered. So we actually used Moroccan Tadillac plaster on the walls, and that's a waterproof plaster. So as you'll see, there's no tile. You can get every single wall in here wet. You will not hurt it. It's an ancient technique from Morocco. I think it's really beautiful and subtle. And I hope more of my clients start to use it. I also really love my mirror. This was designed by me. It's a 2-layer mirror. So behind the circular clear mirror is a smoke mirror. And I just love the effect of the 2 different mirrors together. I love the graphic quality of this in the space. And at night, actually, there's a backlight on the mirror. So it's kind of like a night light. And you don't have to like light up the whole bedroom if you just need to come into this room at night. There's other things in this room that I absolutely love. I literally do not know where to start because so many of my things in here are favorites. This lamp is amazing. This is a French artist. He's basically been making the same lamps since like the 60s. I think the design is super funky. It's super cool. It doesn't really illuminate much, but like it makes such a statement here. I love it layered on top of this photograph. This is another photograph by Alex Soth. And I think it's like so cool. This drapery is amazing. This is Maria Cornejo for Knoll. You can't buy it anymore, but man, this stuff is so awesome. I love it. It's called Big Fringe. It's white, it's peaceful, but it's still funky. If I had to pick one prized possession in this house, I think it would be this chair. This is a super, super important piece to me. It's made by Studio Vandenacker. Sean is a very good friend of mine, and I met him the first time I met him, and he said, "You know, I think I'm going to name a chair after you." And I was like, "Really?" So this is the Garvey chair. My maiden name is Garvey, and he named this chair after me, and so I had to have it in my house. It's perfect in the bedroom. I love this like subtle, blushy nude mohair. It's super soft, and just a really elegant place to sit. And sometimes it's where my clothes end up. I don't know what my favorite color is. I like to say that I like every color. I think if I had to choose, it would probably be chartreuse. And the funny thing about that is there's not much chartreuse in my house. Sometimes I look around and I wonder, how did I not get chartreuse in here? And I think it's because there are so many other colors already. Um, so yeah, I mean, I love all of the colors. I think they all work amazingly well together, and finding those sort of odd color combinations is something that I love to do. In the house, I think that one of my favorite unexpected color combinations is in the ladies' lounge. The walls in there are painted sort of a peachy nude color. The chairs are like a cantaloupe wool boucle. And then the rug in there is actually a burgundy shearling rug. And I think that it's a strange combination. I'm not sure how I figured it out, but I love it. And it just really is a warm palette that I think works very well together. I think in some ways I always wanted to be an interior designer. I mean, I have the same story that a lot of people do, that I grew up decorating my room, painting my room, repainting my room. And when I went to college, I thought that I maybe needed to have a more professional or serious career path. And so I decided to study political science. And I then thought I was going to be a lawyer. And about the week before I graduated, I started looking at LSAT books and I was like, I'm not a lawyer. And so actually, I immediately went to a program where it sort of emulated graduate study in architecture, because I thought, well, if I don't have a undergraduate degree in design, how can I get into design? And for architecture, for a master's, you do not need to have an undergraduate degree in design. Perfect. Okay, no, not perfect. I did not want to do all of the technical things that architects have to do. I really respect architects, but I didn't want to be one. So I moved to San Francisco and had a lot of different jobs just to pay rent, and ended up working in marketing at an architecture firm, thinking I was going to do that for a few years. And that lasted for 5 years. And finally, I just said, I've got to make a change. So I started going to night school and studying interior design. I took a few clients on the side. And, just, I don't know, I was hustling, I guess. And I went to a party and I remember what I was wearing. It's like the power of clothing. I had this highlighter yellow jacket, like long jacket on. And I walked into this room and it had striped wallpaper and there was bright orange and it was just amazing. I think there was a spaceship in the corner. And I remember this feeling of like spinning around and being like, this is my place in this house. This was a showcase house party. And the designer was there. And I said, I love your room. And she said, I love your coat. And the next day I went and interviewed with her and she hired me on the spot. And I started working in her firm. And that was Martha Angus, who was a huge influence for me and design superstar in San Francisco. So I was really fortunate to have been in the right place at the right time. And that kind of started me on a different trajectory of really being focused about interior design and getting away from the jobs that were sort of tangential to design, like marketing, and allowed me to really explore my creativity. So one of my favorite parts of this room is that it opens up into a small garden. Plants are really important to me. It was very important in the design of the house. And I wanted this space to feel like a special moment in sort of a crazy urban context. And so it's a small yard and it was planted to be sort of like a jungle. And I think we've achieved that. So let's go out and check it out. What a day to be in this garden. It's the hottest day in San Francisco, which if you know anything about San Francisco, we don't get many of these days. This is the perfect day to be out here. This garden is so cool. I love the sunken feeling of it as we go down into this like great pebble sort of sunken level. Super cool. I got these trees online. They were this big 2 years ago, and they're actually cassavas. So I don't know if I ever need any food, I guess I can dig them up. Really super cool. I love the umbrella effect that they give us back here. These wire chairs I got in Morocco. I love them. They're super sculptural. I don't have to worry about cushions out here. They're very comfortable. They stay out here all the time. They look cool and they're comfortable. So just like a nice little quiet moment out here. So we added this swing later on in the design process, and I'm so glad we did. This is a great place to sit and read a book or have a phone call. It's a nice cozy little nook, and it's a really fun place just to hang out back here. I love designing my own home. Sometimes it's really hard. It is hard to make a decision when you know all of the possibilities, but for me, it's like complete freedom. You know, I'm the client, so I have to answer to myself. And so, yeah, I still don't have a rug in my master bedroom because I can't decide which one's right for me. And, you know, I think of my house really as sort of a laboratory where I'm thinking about different ideas and changing things. And, you know, I think it's meant to evolve here. So it's really fun for me. I just painted the guest room for the third time, like 3 weeks ago. And I think I got it right now. But it took some time. And, you know, that was a real learning lesson, like how light from a certain light source was going to react with color in that room. And now I can take that to other clients, you know, that knowledge that I've learned in my own home. You've seen so much of my house, but you're probably wondering where my kitchen is. So let's head upstairs and I'll show you. So when we redesigned the house, we decided to put the kitchen up here because this is this amazing penthouse level with views and light. So we spend a ton of time in the kitchen, but it's also open. And so what I wanted to do up here was design an open kitchen that looked as least like a kitchen as possible. So we achieved that in several ways. I've got a hidden refrigerator here. I don't know what's inside there, so don't look too closely. And we have a hood that comes out of the cooktop like this. Magic. And then we have this great open shelf. And I think that, you know, when we were thinking about the house, I thought for sure I was going to have dishes and functional things up here. But really, again, the architect wanted us to like be able to display our art and our objects. And so we just compromised by saying we don't need to have that much stuff. So everything we have is stored in the cabinets here. I've got a pantry around the corner too. And it allows this shelf to be free for an ever-changing collection of objects and art that we love. So my husband is actually the chef. He used to work in a restaurant actually as a teenager and was the head chef, which is crazy. So we both cook. I think that, you know, we both kind of alternate on, we have both busy schedules. So sometimes I'm cooking a lot, sometimes he's cooking a lot, but cooking in this kitchen is a real joy. I mean, we've got amazing views, amazing light. It's just wonderful to cook up here. It doesn't feel like you're in a kitchen, and very functional, you know, and I like to keep it tidy. I don't like to have a lot of stuff out, and that was very intentional. I know not everyone wants to live like that, but I did, and I just absolutely love this space. I just put this floral arrangement together this morning for you guys. It's just a little thing. It's a little dramatic, but I actually love arranging flowers. It gives me so much peace. It's something I do to relax. And so we sourced these beautiful flowers yesterday at the San Francisco Flower Mart. We've got dahlias, eucalyptus, and the most insane Technicolor hydrangeas that you can imagine. And I just love them. It's hard to talk about my kitchen without mentioning this insane pendant. This is designed by a local artist named Joanna Grawunder, and it is made out of cast acrylic. It's called the Disky 7, I think. It really makes a statement in the kitchen. It's actually the first thing I bought for the house. So this set the tone for the entire house in terms of the vibe that I wanted to have. And I love this pendant. You can see it from the street. People comment on it when they're walking by the house about how much they love this pendant. It also looks just as good during the day when it's not lit as it does at night because of the acrylic. It's one of my absolute favorite pieces, and if we ever move, which we'll never move, it will definitely come with me. But it's just perfect in this space, and I love the color it brings to the room. So one of the best things in this penthouse is the way that these windows operate. They're actually sliding doors. Our architect is a genius for this move. And they're just short sliding doors. So we can really open up this entire level and experience the beautiful outdoors. Warm San Francisco day. We can wave to the neighbors, get some fresh air in here, and it's just like a really wonderful way to experience the space. My husband is absolutely on board, and he enables me and I enable him. I think if he could, he would probably want to be a designer right alongside me. He's got a great eye for vintage furniture and a real skill in finding just treasures. And so he's absolutely on board. And actually, I sometimes have to tell him, like, hey, we don't really need to redo this. This looks good already. Like, let's move on. Let's take a look at my dining room, which has one of my favorite pieces in the whole house in it. This amazing dining table was custom made for this space. It's by Dutch architect Dirk van der Kooi. And I don't exactly know what his process is because it's a secret, but I can tell you that this is made from recycled plastic parts. So one of the coolest parts about this table is the clear parts, which are actually jewel cases from CDs. You know, we all used to have a bunch of CDs and now we don't. So what happens to all of that garbage? Well, Dirk has made it into this amazing functional piece of furniture. The table is plastic, so it's super, super easy to take care of. I don't worry about candles spilling on it or food or anything. It's just great, and it's definitely a conversation piece in the room. I like to host a lot as much as I can, and I think that the best party tips I can give are always light candles and greet your guests with a glass of champagne or wine. So these are candlesticks by Pucci di Rossi. I found them in Palm Springs at a vintage store. I love them. They're very 80s. They're a little pomo, super cool, but I had no idea what kind of candles to use. And I was in Mexico City, and I went to a candle store where they actually were making custom candles. And so I had them make custom spherical candles for me. And as you can see, they're not really spheres anymore, but I love how weird and deformed they get as they melt. They do start to make a mess, but I think that's also part of their beauty. So this is always on the table. We light it mostly for special occasions, but sometimes just because. And it's just a really cool piece. Makes a big statement. My favorite thing about my home is that it's really me. I feel like my personality is on display in this house, and it feels so authentic. If you ask me to pick a favorite space, I don't know that I could tell you what my favorite space is. You know, I designed the house so that each space really had a different feeling, and you'll see that as we walk through the home. I wanted to have a different feeling in different rooms. And because we'd lived in the house for so long before the renovation, it also sort of informed us, like, a good example of this is like my bedroom is downstairs in the lowest level. Next to a garden. The garden was really important for me. It's quiet down there. It's cold down there. And so that was a decision I made, like, very consciously, that I wanted to place the bedroom downstairs. The room we're in now was my old living room and kitchen. And now it's a library space. So it feels very different than the other rooms in the house. This is definitely the darkest space in terms of, like, wall color. It's meant to be moody. You know, this is a place where you have a drink after dinner, you watch some movie, listen to some music. We have a lot of lounging spaces in the house. So there's a lot of places to relax, but they all feel different, and we use them for different purposes. Right across from the dining room is our formal living room. It's not really that formal because it's not precious at all. I do have a white sofa, but I have a cat too. She's 18. She sleeps on this all the time. She's amazing. And, you know, I just don't really worry about spilling. Like, if it happens, I guess it happens. But I want the spaces that I have, no matter how formal they are, to really be used. So these chairs are amazing. They're covered in mohair, one of my favorite fabrics, super durable, and I have no problem putting my feet up on the table. This coffee table is from a trip to Morocco. We found it in a garage of all places and had it shipped back here. These chairs we bought in Rome. They're very special to us. We've had them recovered once, and I think I'll always live with them. And yeah, this is just a great room to hang out in day or night. So while a lot of the stuff that's in my house has a provenance, and I know the designer and I know the story behind it, this chair is a little bit of a mystery. I bought this in a small town outside of San Francisco from a dealer that I really like his style. I'm not sure what it is. I think it might be a prototype for something else. The construction is a little rough, but it's a really cool object in the space. No one should ever sit on this chair. It's not that sturdy, but it looks really cool, and it's a great place to put a book or a glass of water. I think that a home has soul when it's really authentic to the person who lives there. I also think that the history of objects in the home gives a home soul. You know, anyone can go out and buy a bunch of items from a catalog or from a store and have a really well-designed, beautiful home, but I don't think it has meaning. I think that when you surround yourself with objects that have a history and that have a story for you, you're able to really connect with the home in a different way. So the floor lamp behind me is really cool. I don't know who designed it. It's from the 60s. We got it on auction. My husband and I have been starting to buy things on auction a little bit more now. And it's a really interesting way to be able to find cool pieces, sometimes for a better price than you can if you buy from a store or from a dealer directly. And it's just a really super cool sculptural element, whether it's on or off. If you come to my home, you have to meet the most important member of my family, Cricket. Cricket is 18 years young, and she's still kicking. We've had her since she was 2, and she's just such a special, special pet for us. A lot of people ask me, like, you don't have a cat because your furniture is not destroyed. And I have to say, Cricket is the best cat ever. She does not scratch my furniture. She can barely even jump up on it. But we love her, and we're really excited to introduce you to her. So as you know, I love to hide things behind these doors. And this is another one of these volumes that has this triangular texture on it. And we wanted a powder room up here, so obviously I had to make it my own. Are you ready to come in? This powder room is magical. So when I found this wallpaper, I was like, I have to use this wallpaper. It's a mural, and when you're in here, it's like a little bit of a cabinet of curiosities. You'll see the grid pattern that's on the tile in my guest bathroom repeats up here. And I just love the idea that you walk into this room and you're kind of transported into another dimension. We also decided to mirror the ceiling in here. As I said before, I love mirror, and we thought, why not mirror it? And it's this kind of kooky, fun moment on the ceiling that no one's expecting. So one of the best parts about this room is that we can really open it up, especially on nice days like today, and have it be true California indoor-outdoor living. These doors slide open completely, and we have like an extension of our living room right out here on the patio. So this space is amazing. This sofa heats up. It's amazing. It plugs in and it can keep you warm, which we definitely need in San Francisco. It's a great thing to have out here so that you can come out and enjoy the view no matter how nice it is. I think that the word home means to me a place where you feel safe and where you feel that you can be yourself, and that you feel is a place where you want to have your loved ones surrounding you. You know, it doesn't have to be fancy, but it has to really be true to you. Thanks for stopping by my house today, Homeworthy. It was so fun sharing my home with you. Now I'm gonna sit in my garden and enjoy the rest of this beautiful day.
Today on Homeworthy, we're touring the San Francisco Victorian townhouse of interior designer Sonny Kearns. While pointing out the enviable original architectural features in his home, he gives us a masterclass on how to mix modern and antique furnishings in a way that feels timeless and intentional. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. By clicking the join button below, you not only support the production of these videos, you also gain access to exclusive content just for members. And today, our members will get a look inside Sonny's glamorous and curated guest bedroom.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Sonny Kearns and welcome to my 1890s Italianette here in San Francisco. So we just kind of stepped into the first room off of the hallway, and we're going to peep into there in a second. But this is it's kind of where we entertain the most. And so we definitely do spend a lot of time in here. It's a very large, double-sized living room with a dining area. If you come over here, you kind of see what makes San Francisco iconic, in my opinion, is these bay windows. It's kind of interesting because even new builds have to have this feature now because it's iconic to the city's landscape. And it's so beautiful on a sunny day. You can kind of look out, see the street pass. We live just around the corner from the Painted Ladies, which are the iconic San Francisco row of homes. And so you often see the tourists coming past, and it's nice. You know, you feel like you're in the midst of everything, which is really quite cool. So this is sort of where guests sort of first walk in, and this is really nice because it's an intimate area. My partner and I am friends. We have coffee in the morning, martinis by night, often where I stumble back up the stairs because it's so close. But I'll show you some beautiful things about this space more specifically. Now, what I'd say about this room is actually, you know, it's typically Victorian. It's where sort of back in the day, 100 years ago, this home was built in 1890. It's where guests would have come in at first before they went into the dining room for dinner. And it's actually pretty narrow, and kind of when you're working in a space like this, you have to really think about the design and what you put in there. You'll notice I don't have so much furniture. I haven't filled it with furniture because I want people to be able to move around, have different conversations. And so as I said, you can kind of see the beautiful bay windows. One of the things I'd highlight in this room is the architectural detail. We were really fortunate because it's kind of made the design easy in some sense. All of the details are original from 1890. We sort of renovated them slowly, really brought them back to life. You can see a lot of the molding into the windows with intricate roses. I replicate that with the flowers I choose because it's important to me. But I just love the detail that, you know, Victorian design put in. That you just don't see in modern homes anymore. You know, things like the curves of these walls and these little details, they're actually really hard to do. And so to be able to move into a home and restore these different pieces is sort of a dream of mine, so I love it. One of my favorite things that I'll show you in the house is this Pierre Jeanneret style chair. Actually, when I first bought it, it had a boucle fabric, don't judge me, because I know boucle is getting a bad rep right now, and it was white as well, which I know neutrals aren't necessarily the thing of the current. So I reupholstered it in a House of Hackney fabric. You'll notice throughout the house, I really lean into nature. I love nature, I love what it does to a home. And so it was really important to me to kind of bring that element into here. And I just love it. It's like a painting and very comfortable, I have to say. After a long day of work, I wish the fire still worked. I would sit here all day. My dog sits here, which makes me upset because he drools. He's an English bulldog. And so I'm constantly having to come through. But hey, that's the joy of having beautiful pets, I guess. You'll see here is our fireplace. We haven't restored this yet. So you're kind of seeing it in its raw form. What you've got to remember is that, you know, this fireplace has really stood the test of time. We've had 2 earthquakes in San Francisco. This home hasn't had any repairs since then, since those 2 major earthquakes. So you get to see some of where it's moved, which I really love. You know, I love history, and I'll tell you more about the history of the home as we go through it. But I just love to see the cracks. Call me weird, but I like to think kind of what the homes experience, those different sort of moments, and I think it's really beautiful. So eventually it'll be fully restored back to its glamour, but for now I love it. I think it really sort of shows, and you can see the intricate nature of the fireplace with these different elements, the different shells, these different pieces that were, I can imagine, really hard to carve. And I think that's so beautiful. I love the craftsmanship. It really inspires me. I think this mirror gives you an indication of the ceiling height in these rooms. Another feature of Victorian homes that I love. I've really spent much of my time renovating mid-century homes, which are far different. They're a different aesthetic. These homes are very sort of large from a ceiling perspective, 13 feet ceilings. I have the longest Swiffer in the world to try and clean these. It's become a hobby of mine. Don't hire me, I'm not for hire. I do it just for my own home. But essentially, it's really high, and you can see how we've tried to play with that height with this mirror, which is from Restoration Hardware. It gives a nod back. I'd love an antique mirror. I've not found the right piece yet. So maybe when you come back, you'll be able to see kind of what we do with this space. But it gives you an indication to it, to really sort of bring that home in. I do want to show you my fabulous sconces, and I'll tell you why they're fabulous. These are Murano, but believe it or not, these came from the Venetian Hotel in Las Vegas. It kind of makes me still feel like that party person that I was 10 years ago. The fact that I have this, I can't imagine the stories that these sconces have to tell on some of the things that go down in Vegas. But I guess that's the saying. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Not anymore, because I'm going to get these lights talking to me. But I think they're so beautiful, super glamorous. You'll see in the house, I collect Murano. I am a Murano addict. My friends tell me I need to go to Murano therapy. But I love, once again, the craftsmanship. The same thing you see in the fireplace, you see in the intricate nature of the glass. And this is just another beautiful example. Not vintage, about 22, not antique, sorry, about 22 years old, but still just as gorgeous. This painting actually was in my partner's great-grandmother's home, and I love that. You'll see I go from modern to grandma pretty quickly, and I just love those elements. Still original frame, really stood the test of time, and I love that moment to really honor his grandmother in our dream home, which has taken a long time to kind of get to. So I think that's really beautiful. You'll see here this sort of velvet couch. It's curved. It really plays new sort of shapes into the room. It gives it an interest. It's velvet. The dog loves it. This is his favorite spot because towards the middle of the day, the sun comes in, and he's a sunbather like me. He grew up with me, so he's learned from the best. And so, this too, velvet's hard to kind of maintain in that element, but I don't mind. My dog gets to go everywhere. It's a home we live in. I really wanted to play into the curve of the sofa, so you can see this Jake Arnold Crate and Barrel coffee table, kind of playing into that curve, really accentuating it, which is super important to me. I did miss one thing, which is my favorite thing, and I apologize. It's this planter in the window. This has a really funny, sedacious story to some degree. It actually came from Senator George Shultz's house. His wife actually had it in her office. It is a Japanese censer. It's about 300 years old. And so what they would have done back in the day is put sand, of course, and then incense outside a temple. And I think that's so beautiful. I love these little guys holding it up. One day I will be that size in, I don't know, whenever, maybe when I'm 60. I'm going to live my life fully and not diet. But I think they're absolutely stunning, and I love what this does to this space with these beautiful tropical plants. I can't wait for this to fully grow and just kind of be in this tropical garden. Very Victorian. Victorians love their plants, and so I'm really giving a nod to them by kind of having these. Except I'm cheating, because these are easy to maintain. You just pop the water in the pot, and you leave them for a month and they grow. And I kind of like that element, so that's good. So we can continue kind of walking through. You'll see one of very many Murano chandeliers in our space. This one I absolutely love. It's by Barovier, super delicate, not massively detailed. You'll see some of the other chandeliers in the home are. And I really wanted this space to feel airy, to feel open. Guests come in, they can move around. It's not, there's not too much in it. and that really plays into this chandelier too, that clean, airy nature of it, which I really love. It's a showpiece for me. It's actually it was my first Murano chandelier I bought, and so I'm very attached to it. It's missing an arm, but you'll never know. Well, you know now, I've told you. But it's my favorite one, I promise. And I care for your thoughts as we go through and you see the different chandeliers. Maybe you'll choose one that you think is your favorite, but this is mine, which I love. So if you come in through here, you'll kind of see we collect a lot of art, and actually we support a lot of up-and-coming artists. This artist is very established, Dean West. He's going to kill me for saying this, but I think we've become friends now. Maybe I can ask for a discount. No, you never ask an artist for a discount, let me give you that. But it's shot in Palm Springs. It's very David Hockney inspired. It looks like a painting. It is a picture. I always laugh with my partner that I'd love for this to be me and that to be him, but it's probably the other way around. But I just think it's so stunning. And to come into a space like a Victorian, it changes your expectations of what it can be. To see this modern photograph with just above these really intricate details. I love it. I think it really plays into something a little bit different. Okay, you can see my Murano addiction continuing with this beautiful palm tree lamp. I purchased this from Italy. I won it at an auction. I'd had one too many martinis and I saw it and I thought, wow, that's such a good price. I didn't know it would cost thousands to ship, but whatever, we're here now and it arrived in one piece. But I love it. Scared about it being here because people sort of might walk into it, but I adore it. You can sort of see how intricate these pieces are, and one of the things with Murano lights and fixtures and those pieces that make it unique is every piece comes apart. And so this whole lamp essentially is formed of many tiny little pieces. And so it's easy to transport. It's also just so gorgeous. All of it hand blown. You can kind of see the bubbles, these leaves. It really leans into some of the palm trees you see over here. I really wanted nature to form a major part of this room, which I love. Back to the architectural details of this room. Just look at how beautiful this molding is. It's really hard to replicate this, and I got to tell you, when we moved in, really the house hadn't been touched much in 80 years, but these beautiful details had really stood the test of time, and I just love it. I don't know if you can see close up, but you can see fruit and those different bits and pieces in it. Just absolutely stunning, and it really separates the room. A friend of mine had said, why didn't you turn it into 2 rooms? And I just could not do that. I think it's so stunning to have this grand entertaining space. I'm so lucky and fortunate to have that. But I think this is such a beautiful element. Another part of the architectural feature that I love in the home is these doors. I mean, you just don't, I know I keep saying it, but you don't see things like this anymore. Look at that temple-like structure on top of the door with the little gold detailing. I painted that gold. My arm still hurts from doing that. I think I sweat copious amounts of buckets when I was doing it to try not to get it on the white. But it had to be. I wanted that tiny little bit of glamour. I'm from the East End of London, and if anyone watching is from the East End of London, we love a little bit of glitz and glamour. And so I had to bring that into this door, but I just think it's so beautiful. Actually, a friend of mine who owns an antique store here in the city said there's a lot of references to the Freemasons in this house. And so you can kind of see that temple-like structure within the architecture, and I'll show you some other elements where you see that too. But I just think it's so stunning to have details like that instead of just a plain door. Makes cleaning a little bit harder, but I got good at it now. I could start my own business. But I just love it. I think all these different curves in the door are just absolutely stunning. It's one of my favorite things. It made my life so much easier as a designer to come in and just design the space because the architecture told me what to do. It gave me a blueprint, which I absolutely adore. Let's pop over here because I want to show you the loves of my life. I don't have kids. Well, I do. I have fur babies. And so this is their portraits. I always imagine my sister has 1 child. I've got like 15 different nieces and nephews. They come every year. I know all their names, I promise. And so I wanted to have pictures of my kids up here. And so you can see my 2 cats, my little bulldog, the slobber monster as I call him, Elvis, he wiggles his butt. That's how he got his name. But I really wanted that to be a feature. This home has to be a representation of me and my partner, and these guys are a massive part of that, and I absolutely adore them. More Murano, I know what you're gonna say. This is a beautiful Murano gold lamp. I love gold in this room. I really wanted to kind of run that through the house. You'll see it. And I think it's such a beautiful piece of work that I absolutely adore. This table is sort of a French antique. I love these tables that connect to the wall. You'll see them a lot in the house. I think they provide kind of an extension of the architecture in some senses. And really kind of provide that interest. Look at all the intricate wood that you kind of see here, the little detailing. That was all carved by hand. And you can imagine the kind of patience and the love and the care that goes into it. And so I see it as a duty of mine to bring these forward into kind of the next decades, the next years, for other people to enjoy. So I definitely love to look at this. More Murano. We won't go into it too deep. A beautiful Murano, Barovier and Toso picture frame, one of the biggest I've ever found, and such a beautiful element. I really love big frames. I love to show off my family. A lot of designers don't often encourage lots of photos of family and things like that. It might be a bit cliche, but I love it. These are the people that inspire me. They push me every day in life, and so I want them to be there every step of the way. They're back in the UK, and so being here in San Francisco, I need those constant reminders that they're there. So they get the biggest frame in the house, which is important for me. So I'll pop over here, and this is where you kind of see where guests in this room would go from that kind of cozy cocktail couch into our dining area. I really love to mix modern and old. It's my kind of style, I love it. And so this table is sort of from Beau Concept. We've actually had this table for about 7 years. I really like to try and keep furniture. I hate furniture going to the landfill. And so if I can make a piece work, I'm going to make it work because it's really important to me to do. And so a large dining table. I'm hosting a murder mystery night tonight here. It's roaring 20s prohibition theme. So if you came back later, you'd see me with a mustache, a wig slicked back because I've got no hair anymore, a white tux. My partner's going as a French maid, don't ask. But you'd see all sorts of things in here. And that's the great thing about this space is you can really entertain in it, and I love it. You see kind of these mid-century chairs. We've had these once again for around about 7 years. And as I said, I love to mix different eras. They can really work together if you really lean into it and really consider it. And so actually this table was gave us that sort of design idea for the rest of the space. We really wanted to make it work. We didn't want to throw it away or sell it. It was important for us to kind of keep. If you come over here, you'll see these beautiful pictures. Would love guesses on what those are, but I'll tell you. These are actually bus signs from the UK. And so if you remember back in the day, I do sadly, when bus conductors would have to manually turn to the destination, this is what those are. So you can see Swindon, anyone from Swindon, whoop whoop, Bishop's Cleeve and Cheltenham. And so I think it's really cool to have these elements. They connect me back to my home. And all the journeys that these would have been through. And once again, they're really big, so they help accentuate that kind of ceiling height, and I absolutely adore it. We have another one over there that says, sorry, not in service, and I often put that as my background to work, so people get the message without me being too direct. And so more Murano here. This is a beautiful Scavo Murano. This technique actually is no longer able to produce because of the chemicals used in the process. So these pieces, few and far between. And I actually found this one at a little thrift store. I actually offered more because the guy was selling it for very less. And I thought, no, I can't scam you here. I'm not that kind of person. But I absolutely adore it. You'll notice in the house that, while the walls are white, I love to add color in the accents. I think color is important. In this sort of space, it doesn't have a ton of light, a lot of light at the front, not so much light at the back. So you got to lean into that from a paint color perspective, but I still want to meet my color, sort of the color where it is. And so this is just a beautiful piece. I love it. It's so grand. Another little English bench. I have a lot of English antiques. I I got to do my grandmother proud. She'd want me to have English antiques in here. And so this is a beautiful dining bench. I've not refinished it because I just love the bruises. I love the different elements in it to really sort of tell you a little bit about the past. And so this is great. I love to kind of mix it up with chairs and dining bench to give that dining table a little bit of interest. And so this I often sit in, lay down in at the end of the night, wake up in, you tell me, but I do love it. I think it's absolutely stunning. Once again, as I said, you'll see a lot of the tables sort of extending from the wall. This is from the Expert, and I just love it. I'm a marble addict too. I love marble, and I love different kinds of marble. I will never say this one right. I think it's Emperado, correct me, but I just love that brown detailing. And this is a beautiful sort of ceramic piece that I purchased from Selfridges in London. And I love that kind of wonky nature of the two different ears. I love pieces that create conversation. It's really important to me. So finally, I want to tell you about the lady in my life. I have a few. I have my mother, my partner's mother, my sister. If I've missed someone, don't hate me. This is Mary, Queen of Scots. And actually, it's I think it's about 200 years old. It's been restored. You can kind of see some of the restore here. I got told it's Mary, Queen of Scots. I've done a lot of research. I'm not sure about that, but I am a fan. I've always sort of been interested in British history, particularly going back to the Tudors, the Stuarts. Mary, Queen of Scots was one. And so I just love her being in this house. I think she had a lot of grave injustice as a woman in the era, but she showed a lot of bravery, resilience, and really pushed for that. And so I absolutely adore having her here, sit here in this space. And you'll kind of see, I mean, you have this really old painting of Mary, Queen of Scots, just above this really mid-century Paul McCobb piece, which is my style once again. It's really important for me to bring antiques and moderns together because I want antiques to have a life. You know, I want them to have a long life, and if I can inspire people to bring antique pieces into their home, even if it's a modern new build, I've done my job, because I think it's important we preserve these pieces. These are real historical pieces that are critical to kind of maintain. So the final piece I'm going to show you in this room before I show you my grand reveal, and you'll see what I mean by that in a second, is one of my favorite Murano table lamp. Okay, I said that's my favorite Murano chandelier. This is my favorite Murano table lamp. It's just stunning. You know, I can't tell you any more about this. It's got the most beautiful neck in gold. It's almost jellyfish-like in some senses, which I love from the base. It's just stunning. And all the bubble details, the height of it, it really glows. It's a special piece to sort of sit in our dining room, and I absolutely love it. Okay, you ready for the next room? So these are original pocket doors. I'll tell you something, the previous owner was an artist, and he would often host theatre productions in this house. And so you can imagine the guests would sit in this long room, and then sort of you would reveal the stage. And these doors are just so beautiful. They're heavy, they're thick. It's definitely something we will preserve because we love that nature of kind of separating the rooms. You know, back in sort of 1890 when this house was built, this is where sort of the dining room was. So I think I mentioned that I changed some things about the house. I moved the dining room into here to kind of maintain one space for the guests. Because in modern age, we love the TV. I'm a big Real Housewives fan. Shout out to Erica Jane, Sudden Strack, all those different folks. Dubai, if you've not seen it, phenomenal. And so this is where I spend a lot of my time, in truth, when I'm not entertaining. So you can come into our living room. And one of the things I hope that you notice straight away is the wallpaper. I adore wallpaper. And actually, you know, it wasn't used so much for many decades. And I'm so excited to see it kind of returning to people's homes because it is a live painting in some senses. You know, if you come over here to sort of these elements, you'll see this wonderful, beautiful mural. This is a mural of the French countryside. It kind of makes me feel like I'm in the French countryside often. And, you know, this room doesn't have so much light. You know, it's got our garden to the right, it's got the street to the left. And so I think you can kind of transport yourself in some senses with the wallpaper that kind of exists in here. And I just love it. It's by Ballart Studios, a Swedish-based wallpaper company. You're going to see a lot of their wallpaper in our home. It's just so great. And shout out to my wallpaper folks, because you can't see a single seam unless you go super, super close. So that helps it feel really sort of fluid in the space. So I sort of call this my nod to Victorian modern, my nod to the roaring 20s in some senses. This room, it's cozy, it's warm, it's got sort of beautiful sort of different features within it. The first thing is my sort of Italian velvet sofa, plush, pretty large, although if you saw my dog in it, you'd think that's tiny, because he's 75 pounds of muscle, and yet he lies in the most weird directions and so takes over the whole space. But it's so cozy to kind of have this really here, more Murano in the background. This is a polyhedry sconce. In fact, there wasn't a sconce there, and so this is my most proud DIY moment. I sort of wired it up, I put a plug in it, tiny little hole in the back, and it automatically comes on, which I think is my proudest. I can share with my dad that I did something from a DIY perspective, and I think he'll be pretty happy with me. At the background here, I'm sure you noticed, this is an antique Japanese screen. This is about sort of 250 years old. I originally had it up on the wall, and then when we had the wallpaper done, I still wanted it to be part of this room, and so I laid it here on the floor. And I think it kind of adds that 3D dimension, which I love. I love the gold. I told you about that, East London. And so I really wanted to bring that element to here. I love that you can see imperfections in it, where it sort of stood the test of time. And I think it's so gorgeous. It's also very functional. And I really believe in design, style must meet function. You might be asking me, how is it functional? I hide a lot of things behind here. So dog toys, I've got a little bar behind there too. It's not really a bar, it's just bottles of alcohol, but let's call it that for what it is. But it creates a moment, and it helps the room feel more cozier because it kind of closes you in, which is really lovely. So this is my piece. I also love the fact that the birds replicate the birds up here, so it really connects with each other. And once again, leans into that nature that I really wanted from this home. I wanted to bring the outside in, and I did that with the wallpaper and elements like this. So as I said, my style ethos is color should be part of a design, but let's do it in moments, let's do it in pops. So I have these beautiful blue velvet swivel armchairs from CB2. I love that they're super functional. They really add that beautiful pop of color, which I love. And these kind of dictated that blue nature of this room. You can see it in this beautiful light, almost lava style, if anyone remembers the lava lamps. Back in the day, I love that element. This is one piece of hand-blown glass. It's super heavy. I'm not sure how they got that blue element in there, but I think it's so beautiful and really ties into this sort of space. Another original fireplace. This one has its summer cover, which is a really nice touch. You can once again see that detail in the Carrara marble, just that hand carving to really create a moment. I love that. I think, you know, it wasn't just let's throw 4 pieces of marble on there and call it a fireplace. Let's really delicately create a moment, and I think that's absolutely stunning. Now, I know Jenna Lyons, who's one of my favorites on The Real Housewives of New York, said you should never have a TV above the fireplace, particularly a frame TV. Jenna, I had nowhere else to put it. Please don't hate me. And this is our TV room. And yes, I have a fake piece of art on it right now to show all of you, but I actually think it looks pretty good. There really isn't, you know, if you look around, I call this the house of many doors. If anyone's been to the Winchester Mystery House in the South Bay, San Jose, that house has doors that leads to nowhere. Same here, we have so many doors, and so not so much wall space. And this is our room. This is where we come to relax. We don't often have guests in here. If we do, we're playing card games or Uno. I didn't know there was lots of international rules for Uno, so I go by the UK rules and get in trouble. I get accused of cheating by my partner when I play, but this is kind of our snug. And so anything kind of goes in here. You know, it's not precious. You'll notice that I have a white Moroccan rug, super, super cozy, kind of adds to that element, so soft on the feet. All of our pets love it. Our cats lay there for days, particularly when the sun comes in from the windows. And I think that's sort of adds to that really cozy element. Okay, here you'll see my showpiece. This is a beautiful antique Murano chandelier. I don't know if you can see all of the details here, but just the degree by which they crafted this, individual tulips kind of sort of circle around the chandelier. You've got these dramatic leaves coming down. Once again, this all comes apart, so you could easily put it in a suitcase, I promise, because it's just it's so practical to really move and to preserve and those different elements. And you know, given that this is our snug, I really wanted glamour. I wanted it to be ornate. I wanted it to be a moment, that old Hollywood glamour, and I absolutely adore it. You can see some of the crown molding too on the ceilings. It's got fruit, it's got vegetables. This would have been the dining room, so I can imagine they tried to connect to that to some degree. And just stunning. I want to preserve these for years, I promise. Actually, this house was put up on a prominent Instagram account when it was being sold, and it got thousands of comments from people saying it's going to be torn down, it's going to be, all the character will be taken out. My message to those people, it won't, I promise. It's really important to preserve this home. 1890, 2 earthquakes. The city wanted to build modern houses and tear these houses down to make way for apartments back in the 70s. No way, we've got to preserve it. It's really important. It's a beautiful Italianate. And so all of these different features, I promise, will still exist. You can come and check me in a year to make sure, because I love them. I'm personally attached to them, which is really important. One final thing I'm going to show you in this room is this china cabinet. Now, I won't open it because it's a state, but this would have been kind of where they put their china. I've not restored this, so you're seeing it in its real raw form. The only thing I did is I added these antique mirrors to it. It was clear glass before. I have a real issue with clutter. I hate to see it. And so that's why I kind of wanted to put these mirrors into here. In fact, this is PVC, would you believe? I spray painted it. So I spray painted mirror, I sprayed some vinegar on it, spray painted black. So it's not as reflective as a typical mirror, but it's 1/10 of the price and a really easy solution that anyone can add into their home. And you can see it's pretty glamorous. I love it. Once again, you kind of see all these ornate features they would have put. This bit up here is where they would have had a bust. I'm still waiting for my partner to give me a birthday present of my face. So I can put this up here. So whenever he's in here, he'll know I exist. But he's not quite done that yet. So for now, I'm still on the hunt for an antique bust. Anyone knows one, please give me a shout, because I think that would really finish this cabinet off. So now I'm going to take you back into the hallway, where all things begin. We just restored the hallway, so you'll be able to see kind of what it kind of looks like. It still has the original floorboards, which we kind of refinished. And so if you kind of come into this space, you'll see this grand hallway. I love it. From these double doors in, this is a traditional San Francisco home, so you have those step-ups into the space. This door is not restored. I know it needs to be restored. You can still see an animal from 100 years ago who scratched at that desperately to get at the mailmen. I hear that's a thing in America that they tried to do. So I can imagine that's the story that I'm telling myself every time I leave the house. Just gorgeous. I mean, yes, it's in its raw form. Yes, it needs to be restored. But this is my message to all of you. Don't worry about it. Take your time with it. Be patient. Really lean into the home so that you can determine what to do with it, because that's the most important part in preserving old homes, is to take your time. It's not a rush. It's not a marathon. This is your home. Let it be what you want it to be. And so I love these. I often open these double doors. We have porch parties with our neighbors. I found a really great community here. I moved to the US 6 years ago. I never thought I'd live in a home like this. I would walk past these homes and be like, wow, I wonder who lives there. Now I do. And you know, I just love that. I'm so in love with this home, probably a bit too much. But kind of you walk into this foyer. Now this is a rather slim hallway. And so, you know, within any slim hallway, you've really got to think about the furniture that you're putting in here, not to overwhelm it too much. You know, I could probably put a rug here, but I've not found the right one yet. That's me taking my time. I never want to buy the wrong thing because I hate anything to kind of be mass-produced, reproduced over and over for the sake of my own design. I want to take my time with it to really make sure I love a piece. So this is an antique English bench. As I said, my grandmother told me you must get some English antiques in the space, and so this is one of those pieces. I put new handles on it. I did refinish this piece because it was really important to me. I love the chevron pattern that's kind of in there. It's one of those pieces that you'd probably expect something grander as soon as you walk into the house. I like to surprise people. It probably belongs in a cottage somewhere in the Cotswolds, but it's in this Italianette, and I love that it kind of sits there with pride. That's really important to me. Now these lamps are crystal. They actually came from one of the oldest antique stores in the US. I can't remember the name, which is terrible of me, but it's the oldest antique store in the US based out of New York City. And so it's French by design. You kind of see that hand-cut crystal all the way down. It's almost column-like from the Roman era, which I love. Once again, more gold. Hey, don't hate on me. I love the glitz, I love the glamour. And I've really tried to tie that gold into sort of all the other elements, the mirrors. You can see this antiqued mirror with the gold splatters all throughout. And so you probably see here a foot sculpture. Don't ask me, I won it at auction. It arrived. I get a lot of odd questions about what I'm into when people see these spaces. I just love it. I think it's surprising when you walk through the door to see a foot. That's the first thing that greets you. Maybe it's a reminder too that people need to take off their shoes. I know I don't have my shoes off because these deserve to be seen, but I think maybe it's a reminder. People are like, clearly this is a no shoe household, which is great. The first thing you do see when you walk through the door though is this grand, beautiful staircase. Actually, when we walked in this house, it wasn't in this state. We've slowly restored it, as I said. Sort of when you walked into this house 8 months ago, it was entirely covered from ceiling to floor with wallpaper, really old wallpaper, around about 110 years old. And it pained me to pull that wallpaper off, but it was dark. It was falling off. We weren't able to restore it. And so we pulled that down and just sort of opened it up, and sort of painted it in a really neutral color. You might say, why didn't you go dark? Why didn't you choose color? It really doesn't have much light in this hallway. And so I wanted to ensure that we bring that light throughout by going really neutral. Also notice the wood. The wood is really dark. And so you can go one of two ways with dark wood. You can, lean into it and go really dark yourself, or you can make a moment of it, let it stand out. And that's what I wanted to. Same sort of detail that you saw in the living room, that kind of structural, that sculpture style molding in the doors. I think it really adds to the grandness. And look, I'm 6'2", so you can imagine how tall these doors are. As I said, Swift is my best friend. Actually, one of the things I do want to highlight in this room is this mural on the top. You'll see how I tried to paint around it and then stopped. Yes, I failed, but I got told by an artist friend of mine that you almost need to be Michelangelo style kind of painting, laying flat on scaffolding to do it. Because I got to tell you, I think I had an arm injury for a month from trying to paint this. But this actually is original. And so you'll see two heads at each end. And in Roman numerals is the year the house was built. It kind of has those Roman numerals to kind of link into when the house was built, those years. And I love that. You could just paint over it. You could save your arm and not try to go around with a tiny little paintbrush. I didn't want to do that. Eventually I will hire professionals to kind of come in and redo it. In fact, I was talking to an artist friend of mine. There's two prominent gay figures here in the city, Harvey Milk. I'm sure many of you have heard of Harvey Milk, and I'll tell you many stories as we go through the house. And Heklina, who was an incredible drag queen. They would often come in this house. They would come for parties, they would come for political talks. Heklina filmed the Golden Girls, but the drag version, not the real version, in this house too. And so at one stage I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool to kind of get Harvey's face, Eklina's face here, to really connect into the gay history, because this home has a lot of LGBTQ plus history in it, and I'll tell you more about that as we kind of go through. You'll see here kind of the original light fixture on this beautiful post. I love this post. This also has pieces. You can kind of see it sort of moves around. This is gas. Now it's no longer connected because you could smell the gas when you walked into the house. So we'll get it restored, we'll get it electrified. Maybe go for a grander one. I'm not sure yet. You know, whilst I said that, you know, it's important to preserve history, it's important to bring antiques in, not everything's going to work. So if it doesn't work, don't feel hard about yourself for taking it out, but make sure it goes to a good home. Don't throw it in the trash can. You know, one thing that I really love about this staircase is its curve. That sort of, you can kind of see it in the stair here as it accentuates round. You know, I think that's beautiful, not just to have kind of that staircase that goes straight down. That's what I love about Victorians. That's what I love about old homes, mid-century, Art Deco. I think that's craftsman, to name a few. Those different elements where they really thought about conversation moments or moments just to kind of give you a point of interest. And I do love that, and kind of the intricate nature of this wood. Now, I was never a traditionally dark wood fan. I found it really hard, and this house has taught me a lot of things. I'll tell you, it's shown me a lot of things that I didn't love, that I now love, that I put in many other places. And so it's given me a lot of life, which is nice. I will point out the flaws because we refinished these, not me. I did think I was going to do it, and then just didn't work out for me. I just can't do it. But originally when you walk in, and you'll see this in the part of the house that we haven't restored, because I want to show you originally what it would have looked like. This was carpet, really thick carpet, incredibly floral, you'll see that. It was just a bit much, so we pulled that up, and these are the floorboards that existed. So fascinating. These floorboards haven't seen the light of day in 130 years, and just look at them. I mean, I think they're absolutely stunning. You can see where people have heavenly walked up the stairs, you know, where many people over sort of the last century would have stepped. You can see those prints. Upstairs, you'll see where they would have put their oil lamp because there's loads of oil splatters. I love that. I think it's a real connection to the past and a real reminder of sort of the home's history, which I think is beautiful. Also scares me that people used oil lamps, but anyways, we're going to go with it. They needed light, so let's do this. Here I won't take you all the way back, but you can kind of see the length of this hallway. More Murano, a beautiful Murano mirror at the back that you can see. I love the pink. I'm a pink person. And so just having that beautiful kind of element. I'm also told that it's feng shui. Someone correct me if it is, but I'm told it's feng shui to have a mirror that kind of reflects the door. I'm probably talking complete rubbish. My mum tells me I often do, but we're going to go with it unless somebody corrects me. I'm calling it, it's feng shui. And so we have this nice little seating bench, so you can come in, and you know, this hallway's built around function. You know, it's got to be a place where you can come in easily, check yourself before you leave, because that's important before you see the day of life, and take off your shoes and kind of then go into other elements of the house. So let's go on upstairs. Now I will tell you, these stairs, I think there's 26 steps, remember 13 feet ceilings, so it's not unusual for me to get to the middle and then sit down and take a break. My English bulldog, he probably gets to a quarter, lays down, catches his breath, and then keeps going. For you all though, I'm going to make it in one go. So let's go, we'll go upstairs. So you'll see here, I mean, this really was one of the main elements of the house and why I kind of bought it. I mean, just look at this craftsmanship of this staircase. You know, all of these different spindles, it's just so delicate. Now, actually, new code, we would have to build this higher if we were to ever take it out for safety reasons, which is obviously important. We don't have kids. We don't often have kids here. And I just could never forgive myself if I even touched it because it's just so stunning. So keep coming up. Actually, the previous owner was elderly and he had a stair lift or one of those chairs. I asked him to leave it in because I think it would have been very beneficial for my life. He did not. Now I'm hoping as soon as you come up, you see this beautiful skylight because this was absolutely one of the reasons I fell in love with this house. I mean, look at it. They just don't make things like this anymore. I know I sound like a broken record, but it's absolutely stunning. The curves, the light, the stained glass. Actually, it's just a skylight, which is crazy to me. I always thought the glass was inset, but it's one big skylight that kind of comes in. But you'll see why I have so many curves in this home is this really was the foundation of the design. I love how much light comes into it. I find it just so inspiring to come out here in the morning and see this. My partner thinks I'm crazy. Often I just stand here and stare at it. Whatever, we all have our own kinks. But I love it. I think it's absolutely stunning. Once again, you'll see kind of these details that you just don't see in new builds, sort of these curved little pieces here. I imagine it's been used for many things over the years. Telephone, maybe, if you want to sit here and speak to someone. I actually took this piece. It's another Murano piece. I sound like a broken record, but I really love Murano. And actually, I'll tell you something. Murano, which is a little island off of Venice, it's got so much more expensive to produce glass there because of gas. And so any piece that's Murano, I feel like I have this mission to save it, preserve it. And they're stunning. I mean, look at this detail in here. You can see there's three sort of mouth figures holding this gorgeous one hand-blown piece of glass. It's by Seguso, Artemide. And I think it's beautiful, and it really kind of leans into the height of this sort of architectural detail. Beautiful orchid in here. I put that in there. I water it once a week. Ice cubes. Ice cubes are your best friends with orchids. 2 ice cubes, pop them in, you're gonna be good. More little mirrors here. I kind of like this element of these different mirrors kind of greeting you as you walk straight into sort of the hallway. I love this curve of the hallway. I think it's so beautiful. So now we're going to walk through to the primary bedroom. Before we do that though, you'll kind of see more antiques. This was my partner Zach's great-grandmother's once again. It's a beautiful old sort of dining table that sort of flaps out like this. I want to keep things from the past. I want to keep things from memories of our family. And so that was really important for me to kind of have in this space. It's just a cute little table that you can pop things on. I love little boxes. I love delicate lights, and so you can kind of see that here. This painting I love, actually it's from Mexico. I got it from a little town. It's called The American Dream. You know, it sort of talks to the realities of the American dream, the guts it takes, the resilience it takes, the sheer determination. And I'm sure many people remember this iconic image. I think it was when they were building the Empire State Building, maybe not, correct me. But I'm not from here, I'm from the UK, so I'm not too clued up on the history. But I do love this idea of this sort of guy sort of falling. I don't love the idea of a guy falling, but it talks to that sheer determination, that resilience that it takes to truly achieve that American dream. And I just love that moment. I look at it every day and I think, yeah, I'm gonna go get the day. It's important for me. So coming through here, I've got my little guy here who greets me every time I walk down the stairs. This is an old painting that's had, you can't see it, Mickey Mouse ears put on him. I love the fun nature of that. I don't know what it is. I think it's really cool. And I love the idea of having a picture here. Not many people would, but I think it's great when you walk down, there's these different things that catch your eye, and I think that's really important. One of my favorite mirrors in the house, it's Art Deco, it's English, fully restored, and I just love the color that it provides. I mean, look at that shade of blue. It's just so divine and beautiful, and it's big enough that when you walk out of the bedroom in the morning, ready to get to work, you can really check out your outfit, make sure you got it all together before you head into work and to start your day. But a really beautiful piece. I can't remember how old it is, but you'll see kind of the flowers in here. This is actually a thistle, which is the national flower of Scotland. I think I'm telling you loads of facts like on Wikipedia, and I probably am not making sense. I'm probably saying the wrong thing, so correct me. But I do love all these elements of flowers. You know, as I shared, I'm really inspired by nature. It's in my name, Monsieur Bloom. And so having sort of any element, any nod to a flower is really important. And can you imagine how hard it was to kind of replicate this and create this piece? And I absolutely adore it. Okay, one final thing before you go in. This is my favorite feature of the house. It's my partner's least favorite. This little speaker system connects to the kitchen. So every morning when I come out, I have to have coffee. Everyone's going to call me a brat. I have to have coffee before I leave my bedroom. So I simply just speak into this. It goes to the kitchen. Fingers crossed he's in there. He can hear my demands. And that will stay. He wants this to go. It can't go. It's got to stay. And I think that's so cool that they had these pieces back in the day. So that's not going anywhere. Nor is my bell. I have a bell in the bedroom. That's got to stay. It's important. Now come into my bedroom. This is my first room that I fully designed in this house. I wanted it to feel peaceful, serene. And so the first thing I really want to sort of drive your attention to is the wallpaper in this little alcove. It's my absolute dream to be able to really sort of stay in here. You know, when we first came and toured this house, this was covered, don't feel grossed out, covered head to toe in nicotine. Because back in the day, what this room would have been used for is a cigar lounge. So imagine sort of, I'm sure folks have seen The Gilded Age, Bridgerton, I'm a fan too. You know, back in the day, kind of the social norms where the men after dinner would get together. And this would have been the space they did it. So they would have come in here, they would have played poker, card games, smoked cigars. They're probably turning in their graves because I sit here and I watch reality TV with a glass of champagne, but hey, times have moved on, things have changed. So it was covered head to toe in nicotine. I said to my partner, this has to be our bedroom. Let's completely transform it. And I'm really proud of where it's got to. And I think actually that's one thing you should always do, take a step back and feel pride, because it's not easy when you're in design. It's really hard work. As anyone approaches a home renovation, painting a room, a lot goes into it. So I really do take a step back in these moments and think, yeah, I love this room. Once again, this wallpaper is from Belart Studios, which is the Swedish-based company I mentioned. It's that nature element. It helps me feel transported. I knew when we came into this room that we had to maintain this little niche here for the bed. I love it. At first I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll put a screen here or a curtain. So you really feel like you're detaching, but I'm too much of a TV and bed fan. I'm one of those people, so I had to not do that, but I really love kind of what it does. You'll see the chandelier here is from Fortuny. Actually, these came with the house. So they were originally downstairs in the living room. They're silk. They're sort of just, I love it. I think they're so delicate, these little tassels that sort of hang down, and you know, when they were in the living room, they were too small for the space, not enough light, and I thought, let's move them to the bedroom, and I'm really happy that we did, because they are just beautiful, circus-like in some senses. It helps the room feel playful. So if you come on through here, sort of this is where we spend much of our days, our nights, our mornings in bed. It's where I drink coffee. It's my dog's favorite place. He can just be high enough to see out the window and bark at every dog that goes by. So it's his favorite spot in the home. But I love this little alcove. I love these design within reach marble nightstands. They have that curve kind of on the edges here, that marble's replicated into it. You kind of see that, you know, these are mid-century. The lights are mid-century too. They're from Lawson Fenning, or at least mid-century style. And this is really the epitome of my design, which is really blending those sorts of eras and bringing it in. Okay, you want to see the coolest feature? Maybe not the coolest piece, but this is a reclining sofa, which I never thought I'd get, because I thought I'm not in my 60s yet, so I can't have one. But, you know, it's kind of cute. It's also a place that we sort of come to, and you can just, all the remotes are hidden, you pop it up, it comes through slowly. And so Zach, my partner, and I, we sort of sit here, we watch movies, we chill out, we laugh, we play Uno card games. It's our private space. And often you don't have the luxury of having a living space in your bedroom. So I really wanted to optimize it to the best of my ability. And this I love this little sofa. And so it's from Four Hands, if anyone knows that brand. You can get them on Perigold, things like that. It really wasn't expensive, but it's comfy, it's durable, and I absolutely adore it. My friends are going to laugh at me for this, because they tell me I talk about it too much. But I do, I think it's great. Another thing, and I mentioned downstairs that I love style with function. This is an example of it. This coffee table is from Jonathan Adler. Once again, adds that pop of color, that orange. It's unusual to kind of see that in here, but it's also a breakfast tray. So you just lift it up, you can take it to the bed, we can take it downstairs, put toast, coffee, things like that on it, goes right back there and kind of sits there. And that's actually how a lot of Victorians would have lived back in the day too. You know, they would have had these tables. You can find a lot of antique versions of them, pop them on there, and then you have your coffee, your tea, your biscuits, your cakes, whatever you need. And so I love that. I love the orange. I think it really warms up the space, which is important. And yeah, I love it. So this was my best find ever, this chair. And so this chair actually is very old. It's around about 220 years old. It's bone inlaid. It would have been, it fully collapses. So you can imagine kind of, these were used a lot in India for traveling, and Italy and different places like that. And so it no longer does this, but the back comes off and then it folds down to one chair. So it's almost like an antique version of our picnic chairs that we take to the park. Just a lot more ornate. I think they really did things big back in the years, but I love it. It's so delicate, it's so intricate. The patterns of the different bone inlay in here, the legs, I think it's just so stunning. And you can see this figurine here. The brass has fallen off. I'm going to get that restored, I promise. But I think it's such a moment. And I get ready a lot in here, in this room, with my friends and things like that. And so we'll sit here, we'll drink, we'll laugh, and I think it's really stately. And I have this little reindeer skin as a sort of warm piece. I got that from Iceland many years ago, 15 years ago. But it's come with me in every home. It's been on sofas, and now it's on this beautiful antique chair, which I really love. So another piece I'll show you is this fireplace. Very different from the rest of the fireplaces in the home. As I said, this was a cigar lounge. And so this is where you can kind of see it nodding to that. I love this fireplace, actually. I love a fireplace that has that built-in mirror. That's really important to me. And so I think it's stunning. I love those green tiles. I love when you can incorporate color in the most simplest forms. And so this piece, it's just so stunning. These are the things that we would never dare touch. We would build our home around them versus tear them out. Not that I judge anyone doing that, by the way. Like, your home is your home. But for us personally, we just love it. We love the idea of it. We love the stories that it tells. Actually, one of the things that I'll share is, I mentioned Harvey Milk earlier, and you know, during the time when they were really fighting for gay rights, during the time of the AIDS crisis, Harvey Milk would come to this room. It still, over the years, was used as a meeting space, and he would talk with the former owners, because they were huge in kind of the political scene here in San Francisco, about how do we move kind of gay rights forward. And to be able to exist in a space that made my life so much better and gave me so many more rights is just such an honor. I'm getting a little bit emotional about it, but you know, it's such an honor to be able to exist in a space and, you know, redo a space that holds so many stories that are so close to my heart. And so that's just one story I'll tell. Okay, let's move on before I start crying. I'm a crier. Mum, I told you this. So this is actually a Jake Arnold cabinet. I really love his collection with Crate and Barrel. It's actually our TV cabinet. It's a bit of a mess, don't judge me. Hey, we all have one cupboard, we're allowed. And so you can kind of see it holds everything. I mentioned downstairs, I hate clutter. And so to be able to kind of build this into sort of a TV cabinet, I've got a coffee machine in here, so I never have to go too far. Because you don't want to see me with that one cup of coffee. It's not good. I got a mini fridge, the most basic Amazon mini fridge, but hey, I love Spindrift. And so it's cool, you know, when we're watching things, we just sort of recline, open this up, watch our movies, and I really love it. Really easy to do too. You can actually find a lot of antique cabinets that can hold a TV. And so if you're like me, that doesn't always like TVs being on display, you can kind of take this little niche. So like downstairs, you'll see over here, we have another bay window, which I love. I love to sit here and read. This is a lazy man chair. It's shearling, it's mid-century, but I love how it hugs your body. That's kind of why it's called the lazy man, is you can lay in here and truly be lazy, which I am. You know, it's hard to leave this room in the morning when you have so many different spots. I work from here quite often. Just sitting in here, the sun kind of pours in. These curtains actually are from 2 pages. But the curtain tracks I got from Amazon, and they are operable. So you can kind of see the height of the ceiling. I'll get the remote for you so you can kind of see. But you can see the heights of the ceilings. It can be hard to kind of pull some of those curtains closed and forward. If I can find, here we go. And so these all sort of open and are fully done. So you can do that, close it, or you can close these different ones. Anyways, you can see I'm a professional with these remotes, but they all kind of go like this, and these are fully blackout. And really easy to do in your home. Amazon, just buy them. These are 2 tracks. They open up. It makes it easy when you're in bed in the morning and you just don't want to get up. I really sound lazy. It's terrible. I promise I'm not, Mum. And so it kind of opens up, and it's really quite pretty. So final thing I want to show you in this room is 2 things. One, I said downstairs I love those tables that are an extension of the architecture. This is another beautiful one I got from an antique store here in the city, Garden Court SF. It's a beautiful French table with a ton of detailing in the wood, original marble. I just love that element that it adds to this. And of course a Murano mirror, because you know I'm obsessed. Actually, this mirror I got from eBay, and I thought I found a steal. It was $200, which is crazy, but it was in Arizona. And so I thought, well, UPS can pack and ship. Let me use UPS. They packed, they shipped, it came in 400 different pieces. And so I carefully restored every element of this. I called every supplier in Italy to get these little bars, these little nails. I got the glass remade, and it came out pretty well. I'm kind of proud of myself, actually. And not too hard to do. So if you find a bargain on eBay, an old Murano mirror, and it has a few cracks in it, don't worry about it. These parts are easy to find. Etsy, Instagram, you'll find them, they'll do them, and you can put it back together and get yourself a really gorgeous mirror. So another thing I want to show you is the cowboy in my life. This is another Dean West piece. Since Beyonce kind of started changing the world, people started buying cowboy hats, I knew I needed one. And so I love this piece. Once again, Dean West does a really good job of making things look like paintings. This is a photograph, which is pretty impressive, to say the least. And I think it's just so stunning. You know, it's interesting because I sort of had this thing where I tried to cram all the most special pieces in my life into one room, the living room downstairs. And I've really learned over time to have these special moments for myself in my private space. And I just love this piece. It's grand, it's gorgeous. I'll never look like this man, nor will I ever be able to have the ability to pull the horse up like that, but one can dream, which is nice. Final thing before we leave is the floors. I do want to show you these because you can kind of see here. These, when we first bought the house, torn to pieces. So they'd been baked by the sun. They had cigarette butts in them, which is not so nice. I never thought we could restore them, and actually we brought a company in, they fully restored them, they sanded them down, and this came out. And actually the most surprising thing was this border. So you can kind of see here, this sort of detailing in the wood. I never knew that existed because the floors were in such a bad condition that when they sanded them down, it started to appear out of nowhere. And I think that's so beautiful. I'm so glad I brought those different elements back to life. And you don't necessarily see this in floors. I know I sound like a broken record, but you don't see these details in flooring. It just makes me think about the craftsmanship of those eras where they would think, yeah, I'm going to make my life 100 million times harder by putting this border in, but look what it does to the space. It's just absolutely stunning. So I love this element. These floors will never change. They have to stay. I think it's white oak, which is super, rare to be used back in the day. And then this element of the border detailing is really beautiful. So come on through. For those who maybe follow me on Instagram, you might remember the marble light switch. You can get them on Etsy. I love them. I just think it adds a different architectural detail to a home. Very expensive though, $45 for that plate. So it's in one room. I can't afford much more. So come on through. We're going back into the hallway here, and I'm going to take you to the part of the house that we haven't necessarily renovated yet. We have 2 rooms I'm going to show you back there. But you'll see that distinct separation, and you're going to step back in time ever so slightly as you can kind of come through this room. So you go through this little door, come on through here, and this is kind of the second hallway. I love that it has a skylight in here. I think that's one of the most beautiful elements. I love the use of skylights. I think folks should use them more often. Not too hard to install, and they drown a space in light, which is really important. So look at the carpet. This was everywhere in the house. You can kind of see here it's got, sort of different blemishes in it. It feels like, I don't know, an old hotel, an old glamorous hotel. The fact that this carpet has existed for 120 years is pretty impressive. Really thick, not too much damage to it, but maybe a bit too bold for me. And carpets with animals, it's a little bit hard. So one of the elements you can see here, and I mentioned it, is the second staircase. So this staircase connects directly to the kitchen. It would have been used by the staff of the house. I love it to be used because it's just easier to access and it causes no harm. I love the historical element of having this staircase still existing within the home. And so we'll be keeping this. In fact, you're not going to see the kitchen today because it's being renovated. But eventually, if you want to come back, you can. This staircase at the bottom will form part of the kitchen. So it will really curve into the kitchen, create that nod to the past, which I really love. Let's not hide things like that. I think they're really important to kind of show. So come on through, you'll see copious amounts of gas lights in this house. You've got this one here, serves no function, but I do love it. I think, it's that nod to the past, which is really important. So we got two final rooms. This is a room I just completed, which is a bathroom. And so we have two bathrooms in this house. And this was one that did not look like this before, but it had all the good bones. And so that's what I say in design, take a step back. You don't need to pull things out, rethink them, really think deeply about them. This paneling all existed. This light existed, different elements like that. It just takes some hard work, polish it up, change the color. But I love this little bathroom. It really wasn't one that we used before, in truth. And I wanted once again to bring that nature into this space. And so you'll see more Bellot Studio wallpaper. Actually, this was a collaboration with an interior designer called Nina Takesh. Really gorgeous. You don't often see wallpaper in a bathroom, and there's a reason for that, right? In a wet space, you don't necessarily want it. But with the height of the ceilings, I thought I'd get away with it because the water doesn't really condense up there, in truth. And it's almost like you're stepping into a garden. Is there a better place to bathe kind of in there? And so I wanted to pull some of the greens in the wallpaper onto the paneling. This is a beautiful shade of sage, really kind of adding that earthy nature, that relaxing nature that you want kind of in a bathroom. I am terrible at choosing paint colors. It's my biggest worry. I should go to therapy. If there's a therapy for paint color choosing, I need to go because it's the hardest thing in life. So when this kind of dried, I was like, okay, I did it right once, which is great. And I really love it. You can see the chevron floors, and this is the first introduction of new flooring in the house that we've done. The flooring we couldn't save, and it was modern white tile, so it had no connection or significance to the past of the house. And so I added this sort of wooden floor in. It is hardwood. Hardwood's not so great for bathrooms. You have to keep drying it if you get water on it to make sure it doesn't swell. But I love the earthy nature in it. I needed kind of that natural element, that organic element in the bathroom, which I really love. If you come on through, you'll start to see kind of how the bathroom evolves. You can see the clawfoot tub. This is a common thing that you're going to see in a lot of Victorian old homes, particularly in Europe. Very traditional. I love this one for one main reason, and it's the fact that it sort of curves up. So it hugs your back. So you can lay in here. I have the breeze from the window coming in, which is really nice. And for anyone who has a clawfoot tub and wondering how to make it into a shower, these are really genius. They connect to two sides of the wall. If it's not in an alcove, you can get bars that connect to the ceiling to hang it down. And it's a really nice way to sort of turn it into a shower without having to close it in with glass and things like that, which is really important. So safe to say I spend a lot of time in this bath. Every night. I'm a bather, and I love it. And this was just restored. So we repainted it, we cleaned it up, I repolished the feet, which was really important to me. This is new, this is modern, but I do love that it sort of has that sort of paneling detailing, those curves. I wanted to replicate that from different parts in the house. marble. I love marble. I told you this, I'm a marbleaholic. Let's coin that phrase. And so I love it. I think it's absolutely stunning. I love the old elements of the French taps. These two pieces here are original. This is a gas light. It serves no purpose. It's not a sconce. It doesn't turn on, but I just couldn't remove it. I think it's so cute. It moves around. I did repolish it. Actually, you can get some great copper cream, it's called, that takes off years of stain. This was black, and I just started rubbing it and it came out to this beautiful brass detailing with all these different bits and pieces. I have a fake tea light in it, an electric one, which offers no purpose but to make me feel more at peace. But I couldn't remove it. I think it's too stunning. So this I really couldn't pull out. Even though it's not centered with the sink, it's such a beautiful mirror. You can see kind of the floral detailing in it that's engraved. It's got age from years, and I just love those detailing. And so it also is very functional. You know, it holds a lot. It's only ever so slightly off the ceiling, and I like to stand next to the window in the morning and get that kind of fresh air in. I do think one final thing that I'd say in here is shutters can be your best friend in a bathroom. You know, so often you see windows that are covered in a film to block folks from seeing in. I'll tell you that shutters aren't terribly expensive. You can find them online. And the nice thing is when you close them, you can, you know, either fully close so no one can see in. If you turn up, no one's going to see in, but you're still letting light into the room. And so for anyone who's thinking, oh gosh, I want some light in my bathroom, do try shutters because they're so functional. You can do that, you can open them fully. So when I'm in the bath, I have them open so that I let the light in and the breeze. And I really do like that. Okay, one final thing is just this light here. It's an old gas light, which we converted to electric. Once again, I couldn't convince myself to take it out, so I left it in, replaced the shades, polished it up, and I actually really like it. So I thought, why not? Let's just leave it in. Okay, final room that I'm going to show you, and it's been a joy to show you around my house. I've absolutely loved it, is my office. So come on in. A tiny little room, not big in the slightest. And I think this is really where style meets function. You've really got to lean into this space. The first thing I'm going to, and I know I said the Murano chandelier downstairs was my favorite. This came from the UK, so I'm a little bit biased, but I do love it. It's a Barovier chandelier. Look at that green glass. It really adds a pop of color into this small space. I always think the smallest room should have the most glamour. And so that's kind of what I did here with this chandelier. You can see kind of this beautiful glass with the sharp detailing on it, that green, those shades. I just think it's so glamorous. It helps me come in here and work. So I think my boss will thank me for buying this one because otherwise I'd just be laying in the bedroom. So come on in and I'll show you some other elements. This is a beautiful 3D sculptural piece of art. It sort of depicts a tennis match. So you can see these figurines kind of coming out from the wall. It's mid-century, but you know, I really love what it adds to this room, that 3D element, which I think is really beautiful. I have this gorgeous shearling couch, actually from CB2, and it's really pretty. My dog sits here when I'm working, and I can sit here, I open the window, I look at this beautiful redwood tree that you can see in the distance. Fun story on the redwood tree is the owners 60 years ago, I think, maybe more, they bought a little sapling from Muir Woods home from their trip, and they thought, let me plant it in the garden, see what happens. And this is what happens. You have a huge tree in the middle of the city, but I love it. We're going to cut some parts of it just to thin it out, make sure it's not too heavy, but what a great place to work when you're kind of looking at this. You'll see my second dog down here, which is an antique ottoman. It's by Abercrombie in Kent. They did a collaboration with Liberty, which is a department store in the UK. My dog at first was very wary of it. Now they're best friends. He actually licks its face. I genuinely think he thinks it's real. That's good with me though. It keeps him distracted. But it's just a nice little element. It's beautiful leather. I love the smell of it. It still has that antique leather smell, which I really love. And it's a great place to put my feet up, look out the window and feel inspired. So this is actually my desk. As I said, in small rooms, it's really where style meets function. And so this is an antique French banker's desk. You kind of pull the drawer out here You pull these two little pieces, just like that, pull this down, and then you're ready to work. I pull my chair in over here, and kind of this is where I work, and I get to look outside. But you know, in smaller rooms, I really encourage folks to consider these sorts of solutions because it's easier. Then you don't have this big desk, you have all this space, you can meditate, do whatever you need. And then the nice thing is when you're done with work, you just hide it all away. So then ultimately, this can become a space you read, you don't see your laptop and worry about Monday. It's all locked in here until you decide to work again. So I really love this piece. The other piece I'll tell you about is this beautiful men's vanity box. So this is antique. I love it. It's gorgeous. It's a little home, and it opens up. So you can kind of see here, fully opens up and kind of has all this storage. So you can see these little boxes. It's where sort of a man would have kept his cufflinks and all those different bits and pieces. It's got an old stopwatch up here that I've got to fix that kind of tells time, but so beautiful. I love the craftsmanship of this. I think it's a Japanese vanity box. And so this is just a cool little element. You've inspired me now. Leaving it open, I might leave it like that. It's a little bit more interesting, so I like it. I am old school. I do listen to records, particularly Nina Simone, Bob Marley, those different artists. I love having this Sonos turntable because it's connected to a Bluetooth speaker, so it's not bulky, it just sits there. There's something so relaxing about listening to vinyl records, or LPs is what my dad says. I call them vinyl, but he tells me off. And so this is just such a nice little piece to have in here. And you'll see all my record collection and different elements here. I've kind of built in this beautiful, this was a wardrobe. I didn't want it to be a wardrobe anymore, so we bought this about 8 years ago, this mid-century dresser. I use it for a lot of storage. There's a lot of samples in there, fabric samples, wood samples, etc. And so it kind of adds just a really functional piece that I can still display my orchid, and then another beautiful lamp to this end. So that is my office. This is where I spend most of my life, sadly. Well, not sadly, I do love what I do, but you know, sometimes things could be worse. I love that office and the way that it looks. You know, home for me, it's not a house. It's a place where I make memories and I hold memories. You know, that's why I have so many antiques in my house, from my grandmother to my partner's grandmother to our grandfather. It's because they're as much a part of our home, even though they're not here. I want them to feel a part of it. I want to walk into a room and see that table that I would see behind my grandmother. That's home to me. It's the memories, it's the people that visit, it's everything that we want it to be. And so that's it.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.